what really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It's Monday, November 6th, 2017. Yes, we're live again today. My apologies for Friday, but I woke up Friday morning. I was just, I could barely get out of bed. So, but I'm all over it. I'm back to my normal, healthy, obnoxious self here. And today's show is live, which doesn't sort out the mess about this ending of daylight savings time. Because in areas that don't go through that nonsense about daylight savings time, like Hawaii, Arizona, Alaska, Caribbean, other parts of the world, it means the radio show is now an hour later, and I'm getting all these emails saying, where are you? We miss you. And I'm saying, well, just be patient. We'll be up there. And so we only have to do this twice a year, go through all of this confusion. We have got a lot of stuff to talk about today. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Mike is in our control room, twiddling the dials, keeping us out of trouble, ready to answer the phone when you call on in. Obviously, the big news, at least as far as the corporate media is concerned right now, is this mass shooting in Texas. Note that they do not call it an act of terrorism. It's a very simple rule. If it's a Muslim, it's an act of terrorism. It's a white guy, it's just a mass shooting. So there was this guy named Devin Kelly. He's not a Muslim. He's not in ISIS. Apparently he was a fan of Antifa, according to his now deleted Facebook page. Former Air Force. Apparently had been on prescription antidepressants, and he walked into a church, and basically opened fire on the people there. 26 dead, 20 wounded. And apparently it wasn't a random act, according to the last press conference with Governor Greg Abbott. He had a connection to the church. Apparently his wife was a member of that congregation. He himself was not a believer. Still waiting for the details, but basically it's just out there, and it's another distraction, so the media doesn't have to talk about Uranium Gate and Dossier Gate, let alone the meltdown that's going on over in Lebanon and Saudi Arabia and the Middle East in general. Needless to say, when the shooting first happened, the gun grabbers were out there saying, see, we've got to have more gun control. People are tired of hopes and wishes. They want gun control. Then it turned out the shooter was actually interrupted by somebody with a rifle. Somebody had his deer hunting rifle in his car. He got it, took a couple of shots at the shooter. The shooter then took off, and the neighbor with the rifle hopped into a truck, and they just chased this guy for like 95 miles an hour. So this was stopped by a citizen with a legally owned firearm, and everyone's saying, well, churches ought to have armed security. No, just arm the parishioners. Teach them how to shoot, and this problem will go away. But the gun control advocates are out there. They don't want you to know that this shooting was stopped before it got any worse than it already did by a citizen, a law-abiding citizen with a legally owned firearm. Now then, as I mentioned before, the shooter, Devin, was on prescription psychiatric medication. So again, we need to look at that connection. And by the way, in a lot of states now, when you are applying for a gun permit, they will ask you a bunch of personal questions, including, are you on prescription psychiatric medication? And if you say yes, your permit is denied. So we don't know how this guy got the gun, or whether he was even legally allowed to have it. So if that was the case, if he had it illegally, then gun laws aren't going to stop that problem. Now then, a lot of people are saying, how much worse would the Texas church shooting have been if an armed citizen had not stepped in? So Devin Kelly served in the Air Force, was apparently discharged. It wasn't dishonorable. It was a bad conduct discharge. Apparently he was court-martialed for assaulting his own wife and his child. But in this article, it basically said that this guy, Kelly, would complain about his parents and medications during school because his parents had him on high doses of psych meds from 6th through 9th grade. So once again, we have a link between these mass shootings and these prescription psychiatric medications. Now, I have a friend over here who's in the Air Force and said at least when he enlisted, being on these medications was grounds for your enlistment to be rejected. Now, maybe they've lowered the standards because they can't get anybody to sign on up. But there's a lot of open questions about this guy. All right, this is all the time I'm going to spend on the Texas church shooting because, again, the corporate media, they're just totally obsessing about this. And if you want more about the blood and gore all over the pews, you can go to them. Meanwhile, as you know, Saturday was supposed to be the big Antifa civil war, the uprising that would remove Donald Trump and Michael Pence from the White House. And it was a complete and utter failure. This thing cratered. The live streaming video showed maybe a few dozen people here or a few dozen people there protesting Donald Trump. It was far from the huge riots coast to coast that they were predicting. Basically, it's an epic fail. And when you look at how much money they put in trying to get this thing going with full page ads in the New York Times, those go for $100,000 each. So somebody put a huge amount of money into this, and it was an epic fail. It was a fizzle. Now, a lot of people have tried to tie Antifa into this church shooting, which there is a linkage there because Antifa actually called for attacks on churches this weekend. And whether that was a factor or not, we don't know. But I think it's time for the Smith Act to be enforced against Antifa. The Chapter 115, Treason, Sedition, and Subversive Activities, Section 2385, advocating the overthrow of the government, which is exactly what they said they were trying to do on Saturday. And the fact that they have completely failed does not mean they should not be prosecuted for this. All right, we're going to do a shout-out to our honor affiliates who are just now rejoining our network, and we're going to take a phone call from Jeff in St. Paul. Aloha, Jeff. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, hi. Over the weekend and this morning when I was accessing your webpage, it takes like 3 attempts to hit a link before you get the real story. You'll get a page that'll say product.msg, or you'll get coupons.com, and then the third time you hit it, then it'll go to like IntelliHub.
Well,
so I'm getting all...
Yeah, I got some complaints about that. It's one of our advertisers who's now putting a panel over the entire web page, and I've contacted them, and they're saying it's one of their clients, and they're chasing it down. We've also had, especially this morning, very massive denial of service attacks. They actually succeeded in crashing my server at one point, and we had to restart it. And it's always, it's spoofed IP, denial of service attacks, always targeting the articles on the Clinton crimes. The Clinton dead bodies list, the epic of Clinton mess, and Hillary the spy. That's a major article. That one is being targeted by the DOS operatives. They don't want those stories to get on out because as the public starts cluing in to Uranium Gate and Dossier Gate, they're starting to look back and say, what else has this lady been up to? And we're trying to get that information out in the face of a corporate media that is absolutely dead set that they're going to wag Texas church shootings at you, even though the vast majority of us were not directly impacted by it. And they just do not want to cover what Hillary Clinton has been doing because when it all comes on out, the corporate media will have been seen as an accessory for not reporting this information when the independent media had it all along.
Okay, thanks a lot.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. Now, another development has happened over in Washington, D.C. In the U.S. District D.C. Criminal Court, 12 sealed indictments have shown up on the docket. So we don't know who the indictments are against. We don't know what is in them. They are sealed. And they could potentially stay sealed for a very, very long time. But apparently somebody somewhere is filing charges against people, and they don't want it to come on out, which tells me it's not Trump and his people, because the instant they have an indictment against Trump or any of his people, it's headline news. So these indictments are something very, very different. Now, a lot of people are looking at Donna Brazil's new book and the article she did in Politico, and the corporate media is actually out there flat out lying, trying to discredit this story and discredit Donna Brazil. But apparently it looks like Donna Brazil and at least part of the Democratic Party are now throwing Hillary Clinton under the bus. And people are asking, is more going to be coming? Because in the last few weeks, Hillary has been hit with 3 Watergate-level scandals. Uranium Gate, Dossier Gate, Primary Gate. Those are all, by themselves, every one of them is the equal of Watergate. And the Democrats may have just decided they can't have Hillary involved with them anymore. They got to get rid of her. She's going to drag them all down with her. Now, the Hillary camp is in utter chaos, and the backlash from all of this revelation looks like it might throw the key Virginia governor race to the GOP. And Donna Brazile is out there. She's being interviewed. She's saying, those telling me to shut up, I tell them, go to heck. I'm going to tell my story. And so she's out there standing her ground on this. There was an earlier report she was trying to backtrack. That turned out to be a hoax. And in that interview with Stephanopoulos, she made an interesting comment about, I know what it's like to bury a child, Seth Rich. And that's an interesting comment, because one of the comments that she made when she was saying what she'd been going through was that after the death of Seth Rich, after Seth Rich was murdered, Donna Brazile feared for her own life. Now, you stop and think about that for a minute, because if the murder of Seth Rich makes Donna Brazile fear for her own life, then Donna Brazile knows for a fact Seth Rich's murder was not a random robbery gone wrong. So we get back to this idea that Seth Rich was the DNC leak, and he was killed for it. Now, a lot of people are already out there saying this is the end of the road for the Clintons. I wish I could be as optimistic, but they keep rising from the dead like Mr. and Mrs. Vampire. But apparently, U.S. journalist and author Lowell Ponte is saying that basically Hillary Clinton is politically dead. And he, too, is saying the Democratic Party is trying to detach themselves from Hillary and her scandals. Now, Sebastian Gorka is out there saying it's time to face facts. Hillary Clinton stole the nomination inside the DNC. The DNC was complicit. And with that dodgy Russian dossier, she tried to steal the election. Well, there was more than the dodgy dossier. Don't forget the massive election fraud. All across the country, something like 1,100 separate actionable cases have come to light so far, involving massive voting by illegal immigrants, people voting in multiple states, all kinds of fun and games going on. So yeah, she stole the nomination and she tried to steal the election, and she still lost. Now, apparently, new documents released under the Freedom of Information Act are showing that the FBI was investigating the Uranium One scandal all the way back in 2015. So now the independent media are doing the job of the corporate media, and we're basically have uncovered Hillary Clinton's IT guy trying to strip Hillary's name from the emails. That's why she was so long in turning them over. They were running software on the server to delete her name from the emails that had to be turned over. And of course, the corporate media is not reporting on any of this. Now, the FBI has started turning over to Senate investigators hundreds of pages of memos regarding the Bureau's probe into Hillary Clinton's private email server. And this could spell trouble for James Comey and Loretta Lynch, not to mention Hillary Clinton herself. Because the memos detail the process by which the FBI leadership, James Comey, came to decide that they were never going to charge Hillary Clinton no matter what they found. And remember that press conference where Comey came on out and he went down the laundry list of Title 18 felony violations committed by Hillary Clinton. And then he said, we're not recommending charges because she didn't mean to do wrong. And there are two problems with that. First of all, it's not the FBI's job to recommend charges or not. That's the Department of Justice. Second, if you've actually read Title 18, intent is not required. If you expose U.S. classified documents through negligence or carelessness, it's still a felony violation. And Comey just either was unfamiliar with Title 18 or he was just hoping that you were unfamiliar with Title 18. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Documents are showing that Senator John McCain was officially notified that uranium was being transferred to Russia back in 2015. And he passed it off to a congressional liaison rather than handle it as the ranking member of the Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee and the Investigations Committee. In other words, McCain was covering this up all the way back in 2015. And this story is continuing to spread. The Clinton Foundation was taking massive payoffs, And they were, in exchange for those payoffs, promising publicly owned lands, and privately owned lands like the Hammond Ranch, because the Hammond Ranch was sitting on top of some of that uranium. So they had to get the Hammonds off of there and seize the land. And that's what led to that whole Malheur Wildlife Refuge standoff. They were going for the uranium to send it to Russia. So the media is out there trying to find some way they can derail the revelations from Donna Brazile. And they're out there with this claim that the Clinton DNC agreement cited by Donna Brazile only applied to the general election, not the primary. In other words, there was no agreement for Hillary to come on in and take over control of the DNC during the primaries. It's an absolute falsehood. If you actually read the agreement, and it is out there publicly available, it's very obviously from even before the primary season began. Now, the second lie they put on out there is that Bernie Sanders signed the same agreement with the DNC that Hillary Clinton did. That, too, is a falsehood, because the agreement Sanders signed had nothing in there about helping the DNC out of its financial mess and having provisions allowing Sanders to decide who the DNC could hire and who they could not. It was not the same agreement. Now, they're trying to claim that Donna Brazile thought she had the authority to remove Clinton as the nominee. And this is also another lie. Basically, Donna Brazile was referencing a process in the DNC charter that allowed for the removal of a nominee who had become incapacitated. Remember how Hillary was having all these medical issues during the campaign, how she passed out at that one commemoration of 9/11? She was using a body double to fill in for her. It was a reasonable and prudent idea to say maybe we need to change candidates because this one just doesn't have the stamina to go the distance here. And of course, the other big lie out there is that all of these documents coming out of WikiLeaks and all they're all doctored, they're all altered to make us look bad. Well, the easiest way to prove that is to provide the original unaltered documents. That never happened. So the corporate media is still out there trying to protect the Hillary Clinton and the narcocracy. And the net result is, as we look around today, the United States is in a meltdown from all the corruption at all levels of government and corporate media and finance. The country is just not going to be able to hold together much longer. And Americans are getting angry. They don't want more apologies from the Democrats, or for that matter, the Republicans. They want arrests. They want indictments. They want jail sentences. Now, things are getting very violent out there. As you probably heard, Senator Rand Paul was attacked by his next-door neighbor, Rene Boucher, who was charged with fourth-degree assault. And apparently, Rand Paul has suffered 5 fractured ribs. So it was a brutal attack. And if you go back and you look at Antifa or Black Lives Matter or even Hillary's campaign, it's okay to use violence against people who don't agree with you. That has been the subtext of their message going all the way back to when Hillary lost that election. So it is spiraling out of control. And yes, I'm one of those people who want to see Hillary Clinton locked up in a prison cell. And I think, again, as I stated before, the legitimacy and credibility of the U.S. government is on the line here. So is that of the corporate media. If they continue to protect the narcocracy, they're only going to destroy themselves. It's been a painful process watching it over these last 23 years, ever since I got blacklisted out of Hollywood for reporting on the Vincent Foster affair. But it's time to bring this dark chapter of our nation's history to a conclusion. And that conclusion has to involve the guilty parties going to prison for very, very long amounts of time. I'm not convinced Hillary's out of politics. She keeps bouncing back time and again. We'll be right back after these commercials.
the past 14 years, it's been my privilege to host the National Intel Report on RBN, to offer a platform to interview exceptional guests, to provoke critical thought, and examine evidence, whether real, fake, or somewhere in between, and allow our audience to call in and participate with your input and questions in order to help us all reach an educated decision and arrive at our own truth. Our world has changed. It's now been turned on its head. Real is now considered fake, and mainstream fake is now pushed as real, rather than any clear thinking, consensus, or rationale.
Those few remaining beacons of light, the ones still shining through the mainstream media lies, propaganda, and deception, are being viciously attacked at every level through attempts at censorship, threatening advertisers, jailing hosts, and even killing journalists brave enough to speak the truth to you. We are in a war for our very freedom and existence, and through these despicable acts, freedom haters, collectivists, and communitarians
For the past 14 years, it's been my privilege to host the National Intel Report on RBN, to offer a platform to interview exceptional guests, to provoke critical thought, and examine evidence, whether real, fake, or somewhere in between, and allow our audience to call in and participate with your input and questions in order to help us all reach an educated decision and arrive at our own truth. Our world has changed. It's now been turned on its head. Real is now considered fake, and mainstream fake is now pushed as real, rather than any clear thinking, consensus, or rationale.
Those few remaining beacons of light, the ones still shining through the mainstream media lies, propaganda, and deception, are being viciously attacked at every level through attempts at censorship, threatening advertisers, jailing hosts, and even killing journalists brave enough to speak the truth to you. We are in a war for our very freedom and existence, and through these despicable acts, freedom haters, collectivists, and communitarians have shown they will stop at nothing to blot out these last few beacons of light. Truth is becoming increasingly more difficult to unmask, just as the term unmasking itself is spoken by those usually anonymous sources. They promote their lies, wishing to mask the truths by ignoring it, vilifying it, or conspiratorializing it into a black hole abyss.
Regrettably, RBN has reached the tipping point, and through internal audit and actuarial review, it has now been determined that the only life raft of survival to this network is to go the way of PBS, that being audience-supported. Like a cornered animal, the left with veracity is pulling out all the stops with every effort to effectively blacken our beacon forever. Help us, folks. Help yourselves. Don't let our light stop shining. Our motto has always been, because you can handle the truth. It's time to review your budget, folks. If you want the truth to keep flowing through RBN, go to republicbroadcasting.org and become a regular monthly donor of $30, $40, $50, or $100 or more a month and ensure you keep the truth flowing.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Do you or a loved one suffer migraine headaches? Listen to what scientist Kurt Hendricks has to say.
If you are one of the millions of people who get migraines, you need to know about Mig Relief. Hi, I'm Kurt Hendricks, the scientist who created Mig Relief, the patented dietary supplement that addresses nutritional deficiencies in adults and children with migraines. Thousands of physicians and pharmacists recommend Mig Relief.
Call 800-MIG-7354 or visit MIG911.com.
What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And we're going to go right to the telephones here. John in Phoenix. Aloha, John. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. I'm just thinking, if there is a God, he must have a curse on America or something. About the only politician that doesn't need to be thrown to the ground and get bones broken, guess what? Gets thrown to the ground and gets bones broken. It's unbelievable.
Unfortunately, in this day and age, it's very believable, and apparently the guy was just his neighbor, and we're constantly being given the message that this kind of violence is now acceptable, and of course that's a big lie. It's never acceptable. But we were seeing it right after the election with all the riots that were going on in these cities, many of which had voted for Hillary Clinton. They still got all their windows broken. But that's been building here for like 9 going on 10 months now, where this kind of violence, Antifa, Black Lives Matter, is now considered part of the social fabric. Again, I sort of expected something like this was going to happen at some point.
Yeah, he's not racist or anything, because even though they say he's Republican or whatever, but I mean, he went down to Central America and gave people free eye surgery who couldn't afford it. I didn't see Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton doing that.
Well, you know, it's almost irrelevant. I mean, let's be honest here. I mean, Rand Paul, he's not quite his father's son, but he's doing a lot of good things. But violence against anybody in whether they're in politics or in the media is simply unacceptable in a mature republic.
All right. Well, thank you for your time, Mike. You have a good day.
All right. Thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go, and I certainly hope that Rand Paul is feeling better soon. But, you know, cracked ribs, that's painful. That is very, very painful. It's going to take a while to heal. All right, let's start talking about some of the stuff that the corporate media is not talking about because they're still obsessed with this church shooting down in Texas. Down in both Syria and Iraq, ISIS self-proclaimed caliphate is in its final days. It's in its death throes. It suffered a double blow in Syria and Iraq, and it's really only just a matter of time before they're just basically eradicated from the landscape. And we're seeing Syria, Iraq, and Russia and Iran are doing a very, very good job of removing these foreign-sponsored terrorists, fighters, whatever you want to call them, from these territories. And the U.S. government, of course, is getting very upset. How dare you interfere with our pet terrorists? Which we don't admit that we control them, but you shouldn't get in their way anyway. But there is an interesting article over here in Consortium News about how Israel and Saudi Arabia, they're going to have to adjust to the fact that they've lost their goals in Syria. Syria is going to remain under the control of the Syrian people and Bashar al-Assad. And the next thing that's going to happen is Syria is going to go down to the Golan and tell Israel, it's time for you to leave. This is not your land. It's not your oil. It's not your gas. You're not allowed to just come on in and steal this stuff from us. And, of course, Israel will try and start a conflict with Syria, and the U.S. will say, oh, we must help our friend in the Middle East against the evil Assad, and they'll be back in Syria. And we know they're planning on going back in Syria because, according to an article in Fars News, the United States has built yet another new military base in the regions that are under the control of the Syrian Democratic Forces to occupy Syrian territory. The U.S., if they can't conquer all of Syria, their next goal is to balkanize it and grab the oil-rich regions for a new U.S. puppet regime, and we'll let Assad have the rest of it. It's not worth anything anyway. Now, as you know, both the U.S. and Israel are demanding that Iran get out of Syria. You have no business there. Well, actually, Iran is there at the request of the government of Syria, the same as Russia. It is Israel and the United States that have no business in Syria. They don't have Syria's permission to be there. They don't have a United Nations mandate. There's no congressional declaration of war against Syria. And Iran has come on out and said they will stand by post-war Syria. That they're going to come on in and help with the rebuilding, which means they're going to make the money off the rebuilding of Syria. Up in Afghanistan, apparently more U.S. airstrikes have killed scores of civilians in the northern Afghan province of Kunduz. And again, the U.S. government, the U.S. military, just aren't being very careful about their targets. They dismiss it all as collateral damage. It's collateral damage. Don't think of them as people and women and children and cats and dogs. It's just collateral damage, and that makes it palatable. No, it doesn't. We'll be back after these commercials.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, keep it today.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read a few from Amazon.com. Dr. Sam Serino reviewed the Extendivite product. Good ingredients, feeling much better since taking product. It seems that the tablets work well. Once again, thank you for your product. My acid reflux has really improved thanks to the Extendivite. Together with my thumb joints, the pain is gone and I'm able to grip things much better. My friend has peripheral arterial disorder and their lower legs were hurting in a red color, but thankfully, there has been a significant improvement. Kind regards, Janice. My husband feels a big difference using Extendivite. Thank you. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what really happened? What really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. And I'm getting an update on Rand Paul's condition, courtesy of Mike in our control room. Apparently, along with the cracked ribs, he suffered a punctured lung. And apparently he is in serious condition. And so this guy who attacked him, his neighbor, I hope they put him away for a long time. Because in the United States of America, you have a right to peacefully assemble and petition for redress of grievances. You have a right to speak your mind. The instant you engage in violence, you've gone over that line of a right into outright criminal behavior. Whether it's this neighbor, whether it's Antifa, Black Lives Matter, you do not have a constitutional right to riot and cause violence and fear. Story that we just put up here on the website. Apparently an early draft of former FBI Director James Comey's statement closing out the Hillary Clinton email case did mention Hillary had been grossly negligent in handling classified information. That was taken out in the final draft, and that tells us James Comey knew that intent was not required under Title 18. He just assumed you were all too dumb, that you wouldn't know. Boy, was he wrong about that one. Let's grab ourselves a phone call from Benedict in Iceland. Aloha, Benedict. Welcome to the show. How's Bardabunga doing? Is that thing kicking off, or is it going to quiet down?
Thank you for taking my call. No, Bardabunga is quiet at the moment,
Good.
But there are some earthquakes in Iceland. The reason I'm phoning is I used to fly a private aircraft. A person called Kamal Adam. The registration is Hotel Zulu Kilo Alpha 1.
Yes.
And Hotel Zulu Kilo Alpha 4. You can look it up on YouTube and who was the owner. On that aircraft was the Hariri, who was then young man, and the man who was killed now. They were also on board the aircraft at the same time.
Yes.
The father of Hariri was also flying with me. And the Kamil Adam had a construction company in Saudi Arabia. He was also the guy who brokered the deal between the Israel and Egypt. And Kamil Adam also stopped Bush to go into Iraq in the Gulf War. He was that powerful.
Yes.
And he was also the founder of BCCI Bank.
Aha, okay.
So you're seeing where it all goes. And
yes.
BCCI Bank was taken down because the British did not get enough military orders. That's why the British government decided to take the bank down. But now the Luxembourg government has a big problem. Over 90% of the things in the bank has been recuperated. So it was not bankruptcy. And this bank was, when a government made an order for a military purchase, the government needed somebody to finance it until the money came, from the treasury.
Yes.
This bank, BCCI Bank, financed the government, the hardware buying. So you can see how big the bank it was. If everybody had to, who were buying arms, wherever it was, they went to BCCI Bank for financing the arms.
Yes.
Until it got delivered. And you also had mentioned before about the Yom Kippur War.
Yes.
You were right about it. Kamil Adam said that there was a phone call from Brezhnev to Nixon that he will finish the problem of Israel. He was going to nuke it. And Nixon said, stop, I have to find out why. And Brezhnev told him, the reason is this: you have transferred so much weapons from Germany to Israel that the East Germans are starting their tanks. And Brezhnev said, I cannot stop the East Germans. They're maybe going to take West Germany. And that's how Yom Kippur War was stopped.
Okay.
It was East Germans. So Nixon sent an aircraft to check the status of the Israel army, and then he phoned Golda Meir and told her to take the army back over Suez. They didn't take it, so a satellite took a photo and confirmed that they had not done it, and then Nixon phoned again and said, I'm not going to go to World War III, I will nuke Israel myself. And that's when everything stopped. But after that, Kamil Adam went and made a peace agreement between Egypt and Israel, and in that peace agreement is a lot of money paid to Egypt and Israel. But on top of that, Kamel Adam made agreement to take 10,000 Egyptians and transfer them to the school system of Saudi Arabia to teach them, the women to read and write, because the Queen of Saudi Arabia was his half-sister, mother of the guy who got killed. So you see how it is all connected.
Yes.
And I don't know what is happening, why they wanted to this guy, because I don't think he was involved in anything. I know only that
we don't really know. I mean, we're coming up on Saudi Arabia in the talking points here, and we're going to go over what we do know and what is speculation. But obviously the situation is very dynamic right now, and officially what's going on in Saudi Arabia is supposed to be arrest for corruption, but it does have all the hallmarks of being a purge to consolidate power. Now, whether this airplane with all of these high-ranking Saudis on it was sabotaged or shot down, or if it's just one of those, every once in a while they happen for real plane crashes, we don't know yet. But it's very obvious that the political landscape in the Middle East is changing dynamically right now. The Saudi-backed Prime Minister of Lebanon has just stepped down, and Hezbollah is cheering this as a victory. They want to get somebody who's Prime Minister of Lebanon who's going to be thinking about the people of Lebanon rather than the Saudi interests in the region. So Saudi Arabia may be flexing its muscle and saying it's time for Saudi Arabia to be the controlling power in the region, which inevitably is going to bring them into direct conflict with Israel.
Yeah, I always thought that was not going to be the case. Always thought that Saudi Arabia and Israel will always be together. But it seems to be something is happening.
Yeah, it does. It does feel like Crown Prince Salman is pulling away from not just Israel, but from the United States as well.
So, then it's going to be I don't know.
It's going to be a mess. It's going to be a mess. There's no question about it. The whole Middle East is about to go up in flames.
I agree with you there. And I've seen also your article about the weather. Keep them up, because the weather here in Iceland is getting really funny.
Iceland's a beautiful place. I've never been there. I'd love to visit, but of course not when the volcano's erupting. Anyway, thank you very much for the phone call. We're going to let you go here and get on back to the news here. Now, the U.S. is now boosting Special Operation Forces presence at Russia's border. And basically it is signaling the U.S. is developing a capability to deliver rapid, deep strikes into Russia territory. So, remind me again why Russia's being the aggressor here. You don't see Russian Spetsnaz on the northern side of our border with Canada or the southern side of our border with Mexico getting ready to just launch attacks into our territory, right? Just keep that in mind every time you hear Russian aggression, Russian aggression. So let's talk about what's going on in Saudi Arabia. There have been 11 members of the royal family have been arrested along with 4 government ministers, all supposedly for corruption. And interestingly enough, all of these people were tied into Hillary Clinton and Podesta and the Clinton Foundation. So it may genuinely be the start of an anti-corruption purge within their country. Certainly it's going to consolidate power for Crown Prince Salman as he gets ready to assume the throne. And, of course, we have these 8 high-ranking Saudi officials, and Prince bin Mugrin were in a helicopter that crashed near the Yemen border. They were apparently taking a look at what's going on with the war in Yemen, and the helicopters crashed. No word if it was shot at or mechanical breakdown or what. But the Saudi prince, Prince Abdulaziz bin Fahd, was killed during a firefight when the Saudi government forces went to arrest him. His own security detail got into a firefight with those forces, and the prince was killed as well. So it's an ugly situation over there. These are some of the world's richest men who are now being arrested, and they're all claiming it's unfair, and they're threatening all kinds of consequences. Now, the other wild card out there is this missile launch that came from Yemen that got near the Riyadh airport. And Saudi Arabia is saying that Iran is responsible for this, and can be considered an act of war. Now, that's a bit of a stretch. That's like saying that if, let's say, Israel is attacking Lebanon with U.S. supplied weapons, and Lebanon says the U.S. has carried out an act of war against them. And an argument could be made for U.S. government culpability. But the way they're trying to spin this missile attack from Yemen, who is currently in a state of war with Saudi Arabia and has every right to fight back, but they're trying to put it over to Iran. And Saudi Arabia is now saying they reserve the right to respond to Iran's hostile actions. There have been no hostile actions. The hostile action came from Yemen. But what it looks like is the U.S. government, just as they use Saudi Arabia as a proxy to go to war against Yemen.
And we hit about 95 going down 530.
Okay. It looks like the U.S. government is using Saudi Arabia to start the war with Iran. I mean, they're putting pedal to the metal on all of this. They've got to get all these wars going before the U.S. economy collapses so that they've got somebody or something to blame it on. Meanwhile, Saudi forces have now closed all air, sea, and land access to Yemen. It's a total blockade. And they're using it to starve the people of Yemen, which is a war crime. Now, one article is out here in Blacklisted News saying that the Saudi purges aren't about corruption, they're about economic compliance. And maybe that's an overlapping agenda. But again, the situation is very complex and it's very fluid. Now, something that should be of concern, because it's looking to me like the Middle East could literally explode. And underscoring that, Israel has just begun the largest ever aerial military drill. Air forces from 9 different countries with about 50 aircraft are now starting to drill in the most southern region of Israel using Ovda Air Base in Israel, which is down near the Golan. They've got teams from India, the United States, Greece, Poland, France, Italy, and Germany will be flying over 300 sorties simulating a real war. So they're definitely cranking up. They know there's going to be a regional war. Now, getting on over to North Korea, tensions are definitely heating up. And what's really alarming people is that we have the U.S. now saying they might strike at North Korea if there's an imminent threat of a nuclear attack from North Korea. Well, the U.S. could go ahead and attack North Korea. Where would be the evidence that there was an imminent threat being responded to, especially after all the lies about Saddam's nuclear weapons and Assad's sarin gas and everything? Once again, the U.S. government is just taking the attitude of, just take our word for it. There was an imminent threat. Really, we had to do this. We wouldn't lie to you. We're the U.S. government. What's really alarming, and I made this point before when they were talking about a decap strike into North Korea. There's no guarantee they would get all the ballistic missiles. There's no guarantee they would get all the nukes. By now, I'm sure Kim Jong-un has dispersed them all across the country into very good hiding places. And now the latest report coming out of the Pentagon is saying that the only way they can go into North Korea and guarantee the end of the nuclear program and the ballistic missile program is a ground invasion. And the numbers are startling. Even Senator Dianne Feinstein was saying it's a bleak assessment, looking at how many people are going to be killed and crippled in a ground invasion of North Korea. Now, Viktor Bondarev, the head of the Russian Upper House's Defense and Security Committee, has outlined in an interview with Sputnik that the best way to contain growing U.S. aggression is to start establishing more Russian bases in places like Cuba and Vietnam. Now remember back when Obama started normalizing relations with Cuba, and I said it was one of the smartest things he'd done, one of the few things he'd done I agreed with, because if we made friends with Cuba and Cuba was now doing commerce with the United States, then Cuba would be removed as a potential Russian base in the event of an escalating war. And so Donald Trump comes into office, his advisors say, no, we've got to punish Cuba, we've been punishing them for almost a half a century here, and we've got to go on punishing them until they will do what we tell them to do. And they have now created a repeat of the situation in which Cuba was forced to turn to the Soviet Union following the U.S. blockade, and now it's all being repeated again. Trump is getting bad advice from his people. They come up with an idea, it sounds good, they go with it. Nobody is doing a careful analysis all the way through of what might actually be the downside of all of this. Everyone's thinking it's going to be win-win. No, this is headed for lose-lose. But it may be that the U.S. government just feels that they're totally trapped. They can't stop the war agenda. They quit and turn around, the economy's going to collapse. So they're going to keep on going forward until either the nation is destroyed, or maybe they're just praying for a miracle that somehow they will still prevail. I don't think they can. We're going to take another break here for commercials. Back with the economic news after these few words.
I'm getting older and noticing that my body just doesn't work as well as it used to. So I like to keep fit as possible by hitting the gym a few times a week. Recently, I started having a nagging bicep pain, and it got so bad I couldn't even lift the weights. When I was complaining about it to a friend, he told me about Angioprim. He said chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in veins and arteries that may cause blockages. You know, after just 1 week of taking Angioprim, the pain was gone, and now I'm back in the gym full strength. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in Angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. So to learn more, go to angioprim.com. That's ANGIOPRIM.com, or talk to a trained consultant. Call Angioprim toll free at 877-882-7221. You'll feel better with more energy. Call 877-882-7221 or go to the website angioprim.com.
Do you know there is an ongoing war right here in America? Are you aware that U.S. citizens have been classified as enemies of the state since 1933? Have you recognized that our entire government is really a vast network of interlocking corporations engaged in commerce? Look up Title 28, Section 3002. Tune in to In Defense of Humanity on Saturday nights at 7 p.m. Central Time. Find out what's really going on and learn how to protect yourself and your family as flesh and blood men and women living in a corporate reality.
Extendivite is more than just a heart tonic. Most basic diseases are caused by yeast in the gut and metals in the liver, and we all have a bit of both. The garlic in Extendivite has a yeast-killing effect in the gut while also helping the sulfur enzyme in the liver get rid of the metals. Extendivite just may improve your overall health. Products like Extendivite are the only way we are going to get our society healthy. And if you're waiting for the government and pharmaceutical care to solve your health problems, you're going to have a long, disappointing wait, I think. Extendivite is a complete formula for extended life in the new millennium. 80 can be the new 60. Extendivite is available in capsule or liquid form for just $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To get started, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendo.
fight. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And getting on back to the news here. We're going to talk about the economic news here. A lot of troubling indicators. And like I said, I think what's going on here is the U.S. government understands they cannot hold this illusion of a healthy economy together much longer. And if the economy implodes and they don't have somebody to blame it on, the American people are going to point the finger of blame justifiably at Wall Street and Washington, D.C. So the idea is to get the wars going and saying, oh, well, yes, you're all going hungry and you're suffering and everything, but it's all the fault of those gosh darn Iranians and the Russians and the Chinese, and if they hadn't challenged the dollar with the ruble and the yuan, everything would be just fine. No, it wouldn't. Private central banking is a Ponzi scheme. It's a pyramid, and sooner or later it's going to crash. So that's why they're in a rush to get all of this stuff going. Now, PBOC's Zhao is warning of sudden, complex, hidden, contagious, hazardous risk in the global markets. This is out of the Chinese central bank. Their governor has penned this lengthy article saying that there are some hidden dangers there, even as the overall health of the financial system appears good. It really isn't. Now, again, the U.S. foreign policy toward China seems somewhat schizophrenic, because on the one hand, they're approaching China to try and rein in and control North Korea, and on the other hand, they're still butting heads with the Chinese over the islands in the South China Sea, and now there is the trade war issue, because part of Donald Trump's campaign promises on the campaign was to be tough on Chinese imports. And so the U.S. has just increased anti-dumping duties on Chinese aluminum foil. And that, of course, is going to upset the Chinese as well. So, again, it's almost like we have a whole bunch of individuals setting these policies in motion, and they're not coordinating. And, of course, where they should coordinate is through that Oval Office. All right, let's take another phone call here. Paul in Toronto. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Doing
Got some
okay?
questions. Back about 6-8 weeks ago, I decided to put into Google North Korea nuclear weapons proof, or nuclear bomb proof. I had 18 pages returned to me. I expected about 18,000, not 18. I ended up going through every page that they kicked up, like the 180 pages or whatever. I could not find definitive proof that they actually have a weapon. There's a lot of hearsay that they do, but I can't find it anywhere. Have you found anything that says definitively they have a weapon?
Well, North Korea has been testing nuclear weapons.
Yes, but
and
can you prove it? That's what I'm saying. Like, you would think this tunnel collapse, there's got to be some isotopes or something's going to come floating out the front door on that one.
There are leaking isotopes out of the mountain even without the tunnel collapse. And every time there's one of these tests, surveillance planes from other countries go on overhead with their little sniffers to pick up the isotopes. So
well,
I think
that
I think at this point,
I could not find that.
Well, generally that information is not made public. Anyway, we got to take a station break. Thank you for the phone call, Paul, and we'll be right back.
Extendivite, a 7-herb combination of garlic, cayenne, hawthorn, bilberry, ginkgo biloba, valerian, and milk thistle. Extendivite is designed to strengthen the heart and arteries and help the body heal itself. Doctors are not able to explain the improvements they are seeing in their patients' health who are taking Extendivite. People who once needed more pills are now taking less and getting better. Due to the unexplainable improvements in their patients' health, more doctors are calling to order Extendivite for themselves. Help Extendivite make your doctor a believer. Extendivite is available in capsule or liquid form for just $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To get started, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822. Or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. The history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here, hour number 2. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. And over at Rolling Stone, Matt Taibbi, and this is somebody you should be paying attention to. He's done a lot of good work over the years. He's got a new article out that is basically saying the same thing that we've been saying here at whatreallyhappened.com for quite a long time. Higher education in this country is no longer about higher education. It's another swindle. And basically the idea is that the cost of college education goes up, and it has gone up out of proportion with the rate of inflation. Assistance for people wanting to go to college has all but vanished. Very few scholarships out there. But you're offered these student loans. And that's really what it's all about, convincing you that you need a college degree, loaning you the money to get it, and then putting you on that debt hook. And it's turning into America's next financial black hole, because like so many of these other debt bubbles, whether it was the mortgage-backed securities or auto loans or whatever, defaults and non-payments are on the rise. Because the high-paying jobs these kids were promised to get them to sign up for college and to sign up for the loans don't exist. They've all gone to other countries. So college has, like almost everything else in the United States of America, just been turned into yet another money-making racket. That's what it is. It's a racket. Now, in another victory for the big banks, apparently Republicans in Congress and President Trump handed Wall Street banks a big victory by killing off a politically popular rule that would have allowed consumers to band together to sue their banks. This was called class action lawsuit. This thing passed by just one vote. And it basically means that you as a bank customer will be subject to what are known as mandatory arbitration clauses. These clauses are buried in the fine print of nearly every checking account, credit card, payday loan, auto loan, or other financial services contract, and require you to use arbitration to resolve any dispute with the bank. Basically, your right to sue banks for bad behavior is now officially over. So chalk one up for the swamp. Because when we find that banks are engaging in criminal behavior, we should have a right to sue. But that's now been taken away. You'll have to agree to arbitration. And who do the arbitrators work for? They work for the government and the banks. Now, this turmoil over in Saudi Arabia and Venezuela's announcement they can't pay all of their bills right now, they're basically defaulting, has started an increase in oil prices. Oil has now jumped to $56. This is the highest since July of 2015. And so you're probably going to start feeling the pain of that at the gas pumps in the very, very near future. Now, we've been talking about how Russia has been boosting their gold supplies, their gold stocks. China's been buying gold like crazy. But as it turns out, In 2016, German investors were the largest gold buyers on Earth. And so apparently the discovery of those phony gold bars in Germany some years ago have not discouraged them. And they're out there buying gold coins, bars, and exchange-traded commodities. And this is a real sudden upsurge. The Germans are thinking something's about to happen because just a few years ago, German investors' gold buying barely registered on the charts, and all of a sudden last year it went right to the top. Now, over in Norway, the Norwegian Wealth Fund is on the verge of a disaster. Apparently, there's a massive equities bubble on the horizon, and they're concerned about that exploding. And unfortunately, most of these financial centers, whether it's Wall Street or Norway or London, they understand bubbles are a path to quick riches. If you can get a bubble going and you can ride it up to the top and then you bail out at the top and everybody else who came in after you gets to eat those losses. And it's a get-rich-quick scheme, but unfortunately, it is very bad for the overall economy of the nation and the people. But these money junkies don't care about that because they are money junkies. These people are seriously, psychologically ill. And just like people who are addicted to crack cocaine or heroin or any other intoxicant, money addicts are just oblivious to the damage their addiction causes to everybody around them. We don't see them as being diseased because the other addicts, they're wearing shabby, dirty, smelly clothes. But the money addicts, they look like they're just incredibly successful. And they are at scamming, at bubbles. But we need to recognize that there are people who are in love with making money for the sake of making money. And they are addicted. And it doesn't matter how much they've got now, they have to have more. They need that new rush of money coming on in to feel that thrill. Remember that documentary Inside Job? It came on out after the 2008 mortgage-backed security fraud meltdown. And one of the things they had in there was that scientists had actually wired up the brains of traders and saw that when they scored a big hit, they made a lot of money. The part of the brain that lit up was exactly the same part of the brain that lights up when you do cocaine. So we know there's an addictive process going on there. Now, for the rest of us who are outside of Wall Street and the financial centers, we're being told the economy is great, the economy's in recovery. No, it isn't. And you don't need anybody to tell you that. Just open your eyes and look around at your current standard of living, at the quality of the products that are in your home, look at your local community, and just ask yourself, do you have the same standard of living as your parents? Or has your standard of living declined? And for the vast majority of the American people, it's declined. And if you are objective and thinking critically, you will see through all the lies and misinformation and the bovine excrement that is being fed to you to convince you everything's hunky-dory and you ought to just go on trusting the banks and the government. They'll make it all work out. We're going to do a shout-out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. So apparently the GOP is now starting to make changes and revisions to their proposed tax plan. And the high points, it's not really looking that good for ordinary Americans like you and I. First of all, the corporate tax rate has been cut from 35% to 20%. Now, this puts it on a par with other countries like Great Britain. But it means corporations will be getting a lot more money and getting to keep it. Where's the tax burden going to be shifted? It's going to be shifted onto ordinary people and away from the corporations. Now, the individual tax rates are changing, but not by a huge amount. And where things get tricky is because now instead of 7 tax brackets, there are only going to be 4. But where those brackets begin and end tells the real story. High income earners will earn a slight reprieve for income between $418,000 and $500,000. People who are earning between $200,000 and $500,000 will be taxed at a slight increase. So they're not really cutting taxes, they're just moving around who's paying the taxes. Now, the new tax bill kills the medical expense itemized deductions, which means people are having to pay for their own medications and treatments because their Obamacare compliant policies, they haven't met the deductibles. They can't deduct those from the taxes. Adoption and student loan interests are not going to be deductible anymore. There's now going to be a limit on mortgage deductions. You're not going to be able to take all of that off. All of your mortgage interest that you're paying is no longer totally deductible. Now, executive compensation will become less deductible for corporations. The new tax reform package repeals the so-called Johnson Amendment, which penalized religious organizations for electioneering. So, buried in the new tax bill is a provision that will allow religious institutions to engage in political activism. Now, the child tax credit has increased a little tiny bit. And offsetting that, of course, is you're no longer going to be allowed to deduct your state taxes. So if you live in states with high income taxes like New York, California, and here in Hawaii, you're not going to be allowed to deduct that from your income taxes anymore. And the latest word we have is that the alimony deduction may go away. So overall, what's happening? The rich are going to get richer, the poor are going to get poorer. The taxpayers are going to get screwed once again. Let's take a phone call. Dustin in New Jersey. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, hi, Mike. Yeah, I want to talk about Saudi Arabia, but you're right. It's what they give you with the left hand, they'll take more with the right hand. It's a scam, just like Obamacare was, just like global warming and the carbon tax, and just like remember the oil energy deals Dick Cheney they had behind closed doors when Bush was in.
Yes.
They had those. Nobody could see what. You have to pass it before you see what's in it, right? I mean, what a scam, Mike. People don't realize it only benefits the people who wrote the bill. We're little people.
Of course.
Yep.
The lobbyists are all over there. They're all going to call in their chips, and they're going to get the new tax code written to favor the wealthy again. Virtually every change to the tax code going back for decades has always been to benefit the wealthy.
Exactly. Hey, Mike, people got to think about it. The people who write the biggest checks get the biggest ear from that particular congressman or senator. We don't give them any money because we ain't got no money, so they don't want to give us the time of day. With the elections being openly
fraudulent, they don't even care what the voters think anymore. They don't have to be afraid of us voters with all the elections being rigged the way they are. Now, obviously, the riggers failed last November, and that sent a shockwave through the election system. But all that tells us is next election, they're just going to double down that much harder to make sure the fraud goes through and is undetected. And I'm very alarmed that President Trump's Commission on Election Integrity doesn't seem to be doing much of anything ahead of next year's midterm elections.
That's because he keeps putting in people of the deep state, the establishment state, whatever you want to call it. He needs to clear house, and I don't know what he's waiting for. It's already like November. Hey, Mike, I want to switch to Saudi Arabia. I don't know if you talked about this with the the crackdown on so-called corruption and this helicopter that got shot down. Now this firefight between a Saudi prince who got killed. This is a coup going on. This is a danger. Let me tell you, everybody should fill up their tanks tomorrow.
It's not a coup. It's a purge. A coup is when the leadership is changed. A purge is when the leadership gets rid of their opposition. And so far, I had not heard a confirmation that the helicopter was actually shot down. Where did you get that?
I just figured it got shot down because with the stuff going on right now, with the purge going on, and with the Saudi prince who got shot in a gunfight, I figured the helicopter is part of that process because it's just a coincidence.
Could be shot down, could be sabotaged, but until we know for a fact, let's not get on out there and just sort of assume certain things until we have the facts involved, okay?
Okay, Mike, could this be a battle between, I remember reading an article saying, they want to open up Saudi Arabia a little more and get away from oil. and you know, they want to build that big mega city, and maybe it's like the same here. There's just an element of their government that want things to stay the same. They don't want things changed. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So there could be a battle going. You know, the purge is a battle going on between people who want to move out a different direction, getting rid of the Wahhabi terrorist sect or whatever, and you know, and following a different. You know, because they're starting to. They're going toward Russia and China. You know,
yes.
And then you got the other side that wants everything to stay the same, the status quo. You know, those small, you know, oligarchs. Remember, I don't know if people know this, but majority of people who Saudi Arabia have working is they're brought in, like from Indonesia and stuff. You know, they have like their welfare state. Like 90% of the people are on some kind of assistance over there. You know, it's only the 10% oligarchy group, you know, per se. But that's all I want to say, Mike.
All right, well, thanks an awful lot for the phone call, Dustin. We're going to let you go here. Now, 2017, and we're not through the end of the year yet, 2017 just set the all-time record for store closings here in the United States of America. More store closings have been announced this year than any other year on record. We're talking about 6,700 stores in the United States, according to Fung Global Retail and Technology, which is a retail think tank. Now, that beats the previous all-time high of 6,100 store closings, which hit in 2008 during that mortgage-backed security fraud meltdown. Walgreens says they're going to close about 600 locations. Retail-mageddon. They've impoverished the people so we can't stand up and fight against the oligarchs, and then the oligarchs are wondering why we're not going into their shopping malls and buying things. Good thinking, people. Really good quality thinking here. Now, over in the European Union, there are indications of strains that are building to the breaking point. We have the issue of Spain versus Catalonia. And right now, the Basques are protesting in support of Catalan independence. So if this goes to open conflict, the government of Madrid may be dealing with conflict in areas outside of Catalonia itself. But according to this article I'm looking at over in Zero Hedge, the EU has got to be looking at Turkey, because right now Turkey has become a much bigger problem for the EU than Spain and Catalonia. Turkey's become a wild card. Up in Sweden, they've had 13 bombs in the last 25 days. So how's that immigration open borders thing working out for you? Story coming out of the Duran. Apparently somebody has published a list. It's called the List of Soros, and it names 226 members of the European Parliament who are under the complete control of George Soros. That's out of a total of 751 members of the European Parliament. So right now, Soros controls more than 1/3 of those European Parliament seats. Now, again, the European Parliament doesn't have that much power and authority because the European Commission decides everything, and the parliamentary votes are advisory only. So let's take a minute here to talk about what's going on over in Hollywood. This Harvey Weinstein scandal has just exploded all over the place. People are coming forward with all kinds of allegations, some of which appear to be true, some of which appear to be just grandstanding and seeking free publicity or possibly a cash payout. It occurred to me that we may actually be seeing Hillary and her people starting to throw their Hollywood liberal friends under the bus to save themselves, or throw them to the sharks to save themselves, if you want a different metaphor. But it is having an effect. There are stars that are being destroyed, their credibility. Movies, TV series are getting canceled. Apparently the 6th season of House of Cards, first of all, they were talking about just canceling it completely. Now they're saying it will be renewed, but Kevin Spacey will no longer be part of that show. We may be entering an era in which all of our illusions, whether of entertainment, Hollywood, politics, finance, religion, all of our illusions are going to be torn down. And that might actually be a good thing for everybody to take off their rose-colored glasses and start dealing with the world as it really is. Scammers, corruption, politics, deliberate deceptions, lies, fraud. So this may be an age where we lose all those illusions, and I think that would be a really good thing. Over in Great Britain, as you know, yesterday was Guy Fawkes Day, and Britain has a tradition of putting certain celebrities into those bonfires in effigy, and that included Harvey Weinstein. He actually made the Guy Fawkes bonfires. Way to go, Harvey. We'll be back after these few words. Join us on the air, 800-313-9443.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. This product is superb. I have been taking it for about a year now, and I can feel my cardiovascular system run like a Swiss watch. I definitely recommend this product for anyone that has high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and heart palpitations, A+. It's potent, but it works. I have been waking up for the past 3 years with numb hands, and a week into using Extendivite, my numb hands seem to have cleared up. My circulation was off, and now it's back on track. So I'm happy. I feel so energized, and I have my husband on it now. My mother-in-law has cholesterol problems, so I bought her a bottle as well. Thank you so much. Love the product. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Welcome to What Really Happened Radio. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. And now, set your eyes on the future and let's consider what really happened.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. We're going to go to the phones here. Tom in Florida. Aloha, Tom. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Yeah, good day to you, Michael. Happy holidays. Yeah, Michael, what's on my mind is, I don't know if you had a chance to see 60 Minutes last night, but it was kind of a very... Yeah, I know, Michael. I know you're saying, unfortunately, good thing you did, but it was very explosive as far as what's going on in Puerto Rico, Michael. the governor of Puerto Rico is basically telling the Trump administration, if you don't pump in these billions of dollars away, the $87 billion debt we have, we're going to flood Florida and all these Texas with Puerto Ricans, and we're going to turn those states definitely from purple states to blue states. And Michael, they were having a thing, and the reporter for 60 Minutes was talking about, and they were talking about Kissimmee and Orlando, Florida. Well, they're moving in there by droves from New York. And I'm saying to myself, pretty soon Florida's going to end up like New York. They're going to be a high-tax state. I mean, it's unbelievable. And you know what? This $87 billion, and they're giving all these the power grid alone, I believe they said it was going to cost $45 billion to repair Puerto Rico, Michael. And American taxpayers got to flip the bill for that. So, to me, this is nothing but a big ploy. And let me ask you a question, Michael. These Puerto Ricans come to Florida, they can vote right away in the next election, or how does that work? Or do they got to send it out?
Let me play the devil's advocate here a little bit, because Puerto Rico is a U.S. possession, and the U.S. government does have certain obligations to it. And there was a lot of talk following those horrible hurricanes down there about assisting the people in Puerto Rico. But as we saw with Haiti, very little actual assistance is getting to the people. And I can imagine.
Hillary is getting all the money.
Well, I can imagine that Puerto Rico is feeling that, they have to start pushing. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, and right now Puerto Rico, if they don't get that money, I imagine probably a lot of Puerto Ricans are already headed for the United States right now, just because their homes and businesses have been destroyed, and there doesn't seem to be any way to rebuild them anytime quickly.
Well, yeah, right, Michael, you're absolutely right. But you know what? If you gave a Puerto Rican $1 million, he'll still vote Democrat. If you gave a million Puerto Ricans $1 million apiece, they'd still probably 90% of them are going to vote Democrat. That's their nature. They're not coming here to actually compliment the white Anglos in the state of Florida or these other states that are conservative. They're literally trying to turn them into liberal states where it's everything 1, 2, free. 1, 2, free. Free, free, free. Everything's for me. I mean, it's unbelievable. Somebody's got to pay for all this nonsense. I'm looking at on the Clinton dossier and on Trump. That's millions of dollars. I believe it's $12 million. Who's paying for that? Who are these people?
Well, that
Where's
came
all
out.
this money coming from?
Okay, well, you raise a really good point here, because supposedly, according to Donna Brazil, the reason that Hillary Clinton was able to get her talons into the Democratic National Committee was she was able to help them get out of debt. Now, the question is, where did that money come from? Did it come from donations to Hillary Clinton, or was she, in fact, siphoning some of the money from the Clinton Foundation into her campaign? Which would definitely be another violation of election law. But it would seem that Hillary knew she was going to run for president last year, and so even when she was at the State Department, she was out there just, getting as much money into the Clinton Foundation slush fund as she could. And I think at this point it's almost inevitable that a lot of that money got laundered and moved around and poured into the Clinton campaign. Because, again, back during the Chinagate scandal. Yeah. So, certainly I'm sure the Democrats are open to this idea of trying to convert some of the Republican states into Democratic states with an influx of Puerto Ricans who are going to be seen as legal because of Puerto Rico's status as a U.S. possession. And they're going to get these voters, and then they don't have to worry about the illegal immigrants being caught voting.
That's
or
right,
the
Michael. It's a
refugees who are
disaster.
not citizens.
Michael, it's a disaster. And let me tell you, Donna Brazil was scared for her life. She even said she didn't want to end up like Seth Rich. She didn't want to get murdered by the Clinton machine, because that's why she had to wait till she did with his book. But look, this whole thing is a ploy. And the main thing, I'll let you go. I know you got other callers, Michael, but listen, the main thing that people are not talking about, and by the way, with the Kennedy papers, the reason they're sending out those Kennedy papers, it has a lot to do with Martin Luther King. People don't want to know talk about what Martin Luther King was up to in the early 60s. And Coretta Scott King knew he was doing some nasty stuff with other women and all that, but that's another point. But you can talk about that later about MLK. That's part of the Kennedy papers, I guarantee you that. But I'll tell you another thing, Michael, that they're not talking about is with all these Puerto Ricans, like you said, you made a great point. They don't need illegals anymore. We'll see people coming in here all going to be 90% Democrat, and guess what? They swing Florida. They think maybe California. I mean, come on, it's unbelievable. Georgia. It's unbelievable what they're trying to do here.
Okay, Tom, I gotta let you go. Gotta do a commercial break. We'll be back with another phone call after these few words.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Hi folks, CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
Do you worry a lot? Whether you're a college student, busy professional, parent, or grandparent, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in 1 to 2 weeks. Call 1-800-758-8746 or calmandclever.com.
Do you or someone you know suffer from chest pain, blood pressure, cholesterol, or irregular heartbeat? Are you looking for a more natural solution to overcome these health challenges? You hear the ads all the time. If this stuff's so good, why doesn't my doctor prescribe it? That's easy. Doctors are not trained in natural medicine. Extendivite Heart Tonic does want you to be as healthy as you can be, and it really works. Take Extendivite for 6 months and your doctor will say, I don't know what you're doing, but don't stop. It's working for you. Get the dependability of Extendivite. Just see how you feel in 6 months. A 2-month supply of either capsules or liquid is only $69.95 plus shipping and handling. Call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AirOutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
Some are maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just try it yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far $5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phones here. Kathleen in Paris. Aloha, Kathleen. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha. What's on my mind? Thank you for taking my call.
I want to talk about words, and one word is an anarchist, and I've even heard you and a lot of the callers use anarchy, what is really in a bad way, because anarchy just means no rulers. You know, it doesn't mean no rules. But anyway, the anarchists, and I'm one, we've given up. And now we call ourselves voluntarists. We just think that people should do what they do voluntarily without being forced at the point of a gun to do. Okay, and so anyway, when the government falls down, which seems imminent, I know you've compared it often and to the fall of the Soviet Union, and I don't know how it went. I know you said that there was minimal bloodshed, but I'm wondering if something like what they did in South Africa could be useful, the truth and reconciliation. If some of these people might come out and tell the truth if they were spared prison. What do you think?
I'm absolutely in favor of a Truth and Reconciliation Commission here in the United States following the collapse of our current government. And the reason that was done was to reassure the people of South Africa that their new government was not going to just be a repeat of the government that had gone on before it. And they came on out and said, this is what the last government did, and you need to know that they were doing it so you can keep your eyes open and make sure we're not doing the same thing. And I think it would be necessary because right now the American people are very much aware of all the lies and deceptions, things that have been hidden from them. So any new government that is being set up in this country following the collapse of the current one would have to come on forth and say, we're going to tell you everything that happened before we got here, so that you understand we're not continuing to hide things from you because we don't think you can deal with it. And so I would definitely be in favor of that. I'd be more in favor of that than punishment as a form of revenge. I just think that people have a right to know what this country's been doing with their money in their name for all these decades. And most careful observers have got a pretty good idea of just how nasty things have been here. But having a commission like that is basically going to get the message out even to those members of the population who weren't really paying attention.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay?
Thank you. Thank you very much. I hope it works. I mean, I wish, somebody has to get this truth and reconciliation idea out there so that, because I'm sure that that's why they're jumping ship, they're blaming each other, but if they thought there was a way to come clean, and maybe they would.
Well, no, they won't. And if you go back and you look at the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in South Africa, it was basically the new government reporting on what the last government had done wrong. And they did have some people who came forward and said, this is what we were doing. And the idea was to avoid prosecution. And it may go to that extreme here. These people who've been committing these crimes and corruptions, they don't even have an instinct of wanting to come clean. In their own minds, they're perfectly good people. They absolutely believe that they deserve to have that wealth and power, that they know what's best for the rest of us, that we're just here to work and breed new workers and new soldiers, and that's their worldview. And so consequently, they feel no guilt about anything that they've done. It's just all a game to them of being able to evade the law, and if they can evade the law, then they're perfectly happy. There are rare exceptions. We're still trying to analyze what Donna Brazil's real motives were in this book. Did she have an instinct to come clean, or is she the vanguard of a section of the Democratic National Committee or the Democratic Party that is saying they have to de-link from the Clintons, or they're going to get hammered in next year's elections?
Well, she doesn't pass the smell test for me because she, remember she's given Hillary the answers to the debate questions.
Yeah,
I mean, she was
she's
given
not
the
without
question.
sin. Yeah, she's not without sin. But on the other hand, nobody in politics is clean. If you're going to be involved in politics at any level, you're going to get dirty. It's a dirty business. But again, there comes a point where some people just have really had enough, and they say, I want out of this, and I want to break away from this and go away from it. That seems to have been the case here with Donna Brazile to an extent, certainly with Seth Rich, certainly with Vince Foster. Again, I'm sure there'd be a lot more people who would be coming forward with what's been going on inside the Democratic Party and the Hillary Clinton campaign. But as Donna Brazile herself admits, Seth Rich's murder had a chilling effect on all of them. They knew it was not a random robbery gone wrong. Seth Rich was assassinated for leaking those DNC emails. And so there's a lot of people who know what's been going on is wrong, but they're staying quiet because they don't want to wind up dumped in Fort Marcy Park.
Yeah, and so the Truth and Reconciliation thing was after the new government was already set up. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Well, thank you a lot for everything
All right.
you do.
Well, thank you very much. We're going to let you go. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. And I'm going to back up here a little bit to the war zones because there's stuff that's just coming in on a constant stream here, and I'm trying to stay on top of all of it. Saudi Arabia has now said that Lebanon had declared war against Saudi Arabia. Now, of course, Lebanon has done no such thing. But Saudi Arabia's rationale for saying Lebanon has declared war is because of aggression against Saudi Arabia by the Iran-backed Lebanese Shiite group Hezbollah. So they're trying to drag everybody in. Oh, it's Iran again. It's Iran. And by the way, they're already out there trying to sell the idea that Iran was behind 9/11. They're dragging that one out there again. Oh, it was Afghanistan. Well, we bombed the place into rubble. Turns out it was Iraq. Bombed that place into rubble. Now it turns out it wasn't Iraq. Now it's Iran. So they're trying to repurpose the propaganda here. But it looks to me like Saudi Arabia is about to make a very decisive move militarily across the Middle East. And again, I think Crown Prince Salman is not all that cozy with the United States government because all of these royal princes and ministers who've been arrested, they were all part of that cozy deal with the United States government. Apparently most, if not all of them, were tangled up with Hillary Clinton and the Clinton Foundation. And we know that Crown Prince Salman has been making overtures to both Russia and China. So Saudi Arabia may just feel that it's their time to become a controlling dominant power in the region and step out from the United States shadow, not to mention Israel. Now, up in Syria, the Syrian army has lost 2 villages to Al-Qaeda, saying that apparently Al-Qaeda is using chemical weapons, and they used them on the town Al-Balil and Turaikia. And you're not going to see anything about this in the corporate media because the only time they talk about chemical weapons in Syria is if they think they can blame Assad for it. But again, as Syria and Russia have advanced across Syrian territory and they will find these abandoned ISIS and Al-Qaeda bases, they find these chemical weapons in them. Now, we've been talking about the plague that's down in Madagascar, how it may have already escaped to 9 other countries around there, and how apparently this strain is a little different from the Black Plague that killed at least 25 million people across Europe. They're saying it's a little bit more contagious. There's something's different about it. They're very, very worried about this. And they're trying to get people within Madagascar to abandon certain of their traditional religious practices, which involve digging up the dead and dressing them and parading them through a celebration. But it is a serious situation. But there's another one now. And apparently over on the Kenya-Uganda border, there's been an outbreak of Marburg. Now, Marburg is a disease very similar to Ebola. In fact, Marburg was identified before Ebola was. and it's an RNA virus, which means it's very unstable and it mutates very rapidly. It has a 90% lethality rate. And there's no vaccine, there's no cure. And apparently they're just going for containment. And the question is it airborne or not? Most of the prior Ebola outbreaks have not been airborne, or it would have been a lot worse. But there do seem to be a lot of these illnesses breaking out all over that part of the world. Now, over in Britain, in the town of Plymouth, it's snowing, and weather forecasters are predicting the winter of 2017 could be one of the coldest in a decade. Now, at Washington State, Stanford played in the snow for the first time since 1936. These are all indications that we are in for another record-setting winter. And still, Al Gore is out there and the corporate media saying 2017 was one of the 3 hottest years on record. They're still pushing this human-caused global warming nonsense. They still want to get you to pay a carbon tax on top of all the other taxes you're already paying. They're trying to guilt you out of your money by making you think that you are responsible for the destruction of planet Earth, when in reality it's the war machine that is destroying planet Earth, bit by bit by bit. It's just another scam. And it all started back in the 1990s when the Earth really was warming. And they said, oh, we can take this. It's happening naturally. We'll claim it's all humans' fault. We'll say that it's carbon dioxide, which we can link to human activity, and we'll all get rich. And Al Gore certainly did. He ended the 2000 campaign virtually broke. And now is a multimillionaire again, all on carbon credits. And it's a big scam. And every year we'll have another brutal winter. Remember back in March 20th, 2000, and the UK Independent was running an article, snowfalls are now a thing of the past. Wrong. It's snowing all kinds of places. It's snowing in Washington State, where Claire and I used to live. Because human activity does not have that big of an influence on climate. That glowing ball of fusing hydrogen gas up in the sky dominates the temperature here on Earth, and for that matter, the entire solar system. And one of the things that we have seen from spacecraft we have sent to other worlds is that at the same time the Earth was warming, so was Mars, so was Jupiter. And there are no humans there, no carbon dioxide to cause a problem. And now we're in a cooling phase. And it's when the Earth went into a cooling phase that the fraud began. Because everybody had invested in human-caused global warming. They'd bet their credibility on it. They'd put their money into green energy and carbon credits and carbon trading. And they didn't want that to go away by a little thing of Mother Nature going the wrong direction. So that's when the fraud began at places like the Hadley Climate Research Unit at the University of East Anglia, Hide the Decline, Penn State, NASA, NOAA. All of them were part of this, to convince you the world was getting warmer even as we had harder and harder winters. And we're heading into another one. And the players behind this human-caused global warming fraud, Al Gore, the corporate media, are still convinced that you will believe them. That instead of using your own eyes, your senses, to look out into the world and see what's going on, that you look at their pretty colored charts and graphs and say, oh yes, the line is going up, it must be bad. This government, this media, call it the government-media complex, lies to you about just about everything. And they do it to control you, to get money from you, to get you to send your children off to various wars, to agree to the loss of more of your freedoms and liberties. And they're not going to change. It's very obvious they're not going to change. They're still pushing human-caused global warming propaganda, even as we get indications of another very hard winter coming on in this year. So, anyway, phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. I'm going to need some calls here. Let's talk about the iPhones. Now, last week we reported that Apple has discontinued sales of the iPhone 7 because people were buying the iPhone 7. They weren't buying the much more expensive iPhone 8. They certainly weren't buying the very expensive iPhone 10. And so Apple decided to just pull the iPhone 7s off the market, and now if you go down to your cell phone store, your only option for an upgrade will be an iPhone 8. And it is only marginally better than the iPhone 7 in terms of capability, and it is a lot more expensive. The iPhone 10 is running about $1,000. Now, the iPhone 8 was reported last week to have a screen burn-in problem, which means if you use your phone too much, the screen will actually pick up a ghost of your default desktop. It's like from the days of cathode ray tubes. And it's kind of amazing to think that this product got all the way through design, prototyping, testing, and then manufacture, and nobody picked up on this. And now Apple is saying that, yes, the iPhone 10 also has this same problem. So what are they going to do? Just say you just have to get used to it? And they're saying, you know, the screen on the iPhone 10 meets the incredibly high standards of Apple, but it's prone to screen burn-in, otherwise known as image persistence, when it's used for an extended amount of time. Well, I don't know about you. I mean, I don't use my phone constantly, but I use it a lot. But we've all seen people who are walking around like zombies, looking into their phones. This is going to be an issue. And the news is even worse about the iPhone 10, and I will share that with you after these few words.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcast. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Do you or a loved one suffer migraine headaches? Listen to what scientist Kurt Hendricks has to say.
35 million people in the United States suffer with debilitating migraines. If you or a loved one are one of them, you need to know about MigraLief. Hi, I'm Kurt Hendricks, the scientist that formulated and patented the MigraLief migraine formula. MigraLief is a non-prescription dietary supplement recommended by neurologists, pharmacists, and pediatricians to address nutritional deficiencies in both adults and children over 2 with migraines. Try MigraLief for 3 months and see the powerful difference it can make in your life, or get your money back, no questions asked. Go to MIG911.com or call 800-MIG-7354. You can change your life today.
So if you suffer from migraines, don't wait. Call 800-MIG-7354. That's 800-MIG-7354. Or visit MIG911.com.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible?
Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, I mean the panic is on. Can't get no wake, can't draw no pay. Unemployment getting worse every day.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. We're going to go ahead and take a phone call. Francis in North Carolina. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, aloha to you both.
Aloha.
I got a quick thought for you. Maybe perhaps the only way to snap these people out of it when they're walking around on the street with their iPhone toy or whatever you want to call it, with the wire shoved implanted in their ear, or Bluetooth or whatever the heck you want to call that thing. Perhaps the only way to snap them out of that is to blow your horn on your vehicle. If they give you a dirty look, guess what? You can give them one right back.
Well, it's definitely a serious problem, and again, here in Hawaii, they're now actually starting to write tickets for people who are crossing the street while looking at the phone, because it is a distraction. And as I mentioned a while ago, Claire and I had a circumstance where there was somebody just walking across the parking lot. We were getting ready to turn into a parking space, and they just stepped right in front of our car, completely oblivious. And I don't know that blowing the horn would work because they had the earphones in both ears. Personally, I can't stand that. When I got my iPhone and I tried the little headphones and the music playing, and I immediately felt disconnected from the real world. It was like a bad drug experience for me. So, I mean, when I want to listen to music, I'll sit and I'll listen to music on it. But when I'm out and about, I still connect with the real world. Maybe somebody needs to come up with an app, that, every once in a while pops something on the screen that says, hey, look up. There's a real world around you or something like that.
No, Michael. If anything, what it comes down to is they claim that they got hurt because you did blow your horn. Guess what? They hurt themselves by not paying attention to their surroundings, for that matter. So they really have only one person to blame, that's themselves. Because as I explained to my other half at one point, you know something, dear? If you want to continue playing with that thing, because it has to make sure it has one ear open so you can hear me when I do talk to him, I told him, I said, when you cross over and your body is left behind, I'm going to make sure all your toys are buried with you and perhaps even have the wires surgically implanted so that way you don't have to worry about where they are.
Well, again, there's this idea that people think that by staring into one of these devices, they're somehow more connected with the world. And in fact, the opposite is true, because everything they're getting on that iPhone, it's just as filtered, if not more so, than what they were getting over the radio or the TV sets. And there are some useful things on the iPhone, and, I love the apps I've got, the weather radar and things like that. But this idea of just walking through life constantly staring at the screen, I think that's definitely not a good idea.
Well, definitely, and for that matter, I don't think people really stop to realize that what they're viewing on that toy, as I call it, regardless of what shape or form it takes, for that matter, or what model it is synthetic. It's not real. It's just a bunch of electrons or electrical impulses going through there that's got them mesmerized and hypnotized and titillated and everything else in between. It's not the real world, since the reason why they don't connect with other people, because maybe they're afraid to. Have a great one.
Thank you very much. Yeah, as more of these devices come into common usage, people are losing social skills, the ability to interact with other human beings other than by texting. We'll be back after station identification.
talk about something serious for a minute? Your age. Getting old has its perks. But remember, being a few years younger, you know, your hair was thicker, you didn't have so many wrinkles, that extra weight wasn't haunting you, and you just felt better. Well, we can't turn back the clocks and go back 10 or 15 years, but you can start feeling and looking 10 or 15 years younger with Nature's Youth RSF. It's a doctor-formulated daily supplement that helps your body maintain its peak performance and fight the aging process. Imagine sleeping better, looking better, and feeling better. See how Nature's Youth RSF has helped thousands of people just like you at nature'syouth.com. nature'syouth.com. The holidays are coming. Imagine how it will feel when your family and friends are asking you what you did to look so good. Your secret will be Nature's Youth RSF. It's time to start looking better and feeling better. Learn more and order your Nature's Youth RSF at nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, last hour of our program today. And carrying on with that discussion we were having about the loss of social skills, we're constantly being convinced by the advertisers of these devices that this is the new mode of social interaction. Texting each other, selfies. Personally, I look at selfies and I think it is a symptom of an extremely vain and self-absorbed culture. And yes, texting is nice when you're not in the same room with somebody. But I'm sure we've all seen circumstances where you're in a room and there are people who are just texting back and forth. They even made fun of that whole idea on the movie WALL-E. You know, where these two guys are like talking with each other over the TV systems and they're actually sitting side by side. Far from pulling our community together, it's actually putting walls up. Like you can't talk to another human being without going through one of these devices. And I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. Now, getting on back to the other stuff. By the way, the phone lines are open, 800-313-9443 if you want to call on them. The iPhone X has got some other bad news. Apparently now that some of them are getting out into like testers, it's coming up short. First of all, you know that facial recognition system has a high failure rate. And apparently because they took out the fingerprint scanner, if the facial recognition doesn't work, then you have to type in your 6-digit personal ID code. They should have stayed with the fingerprint scanner, but they wanted to do the whiz-bang facial recognition because people would buy that. Well, in a healthy economy where people have got disposable income and they always want to have that pride of having the latest and greatest device, yeah, maybe. But we don't have that kind of an economy. But even worse is apparently the iPhone X is not faring well in the first drop and durability tests. Now, consumer electronics site CNET ran a drop test from a height of 3 feet. The glass at the corner of the phone cracked on the very first drop, which dropped the phone on the side. A second test dropped the phone on its face, leading to a lot more fractures. And CNET concluded that dropping this phone without a case is out of the question. It's that fragile. And apparently a more extreme drop test from SquareTrade showed functionality was damaged as well. Now, I know that all of these phones will break, and I remember it was only a couple of years ago when they were advertising cell phones that were break-proof, which I thought was a really good idea. I love the fact that the iPhone 7 seems very, very durable, and it's waterproof to a depth of 30 feet. But apparently the iPhone X is going the other way. It's $1,000. It's very delicate. The facial scanning doesn't work, and you might as well buy a case to put it in, because if you drop it without the case, the phone is going to be gone. And those cases are not cheap. Now, by now, you've probably heard of this so-called Paradise Papers. This is a huge leak of financial documents showing how the world's richest individuals and corporations are setting up tax havens to avoid billions in taxes. At the same time, taxes on ordinary people continue to go up. And apparently Apple was caught in that leak as well. Basically, after the European Union announced a probe into tax arrangements in 2013, Apple was forced to find an offshore base that would serve as a tax residency for its subsidiaries in Ireland. And the leaked Paradise Papers revealed the following year, Apple's legal advisors sent documents to law firm Appleby asking for a recommendation on which jurisdiction would be best. Now, Competition Commissioner Margaret Vestager said the maker of iPhones paid just 1% tax on its European profits in 2003 and 0.005% in 2014. Basically, Apple is paying just 50 euros in tax on every 1 million euro of profit it made in 2014. And of course, Apple says, well, we're following the letter of the law and pay all the taxes we owe wherever we operate. Greed is really starting to rip our world apart. Money junkie fever, apparently it's contagious. And it's starting to contage downward from the pinnacles of Wall Street down to ordinary people. And don't get me wrong, I don't have a problem with money. I'd love to have money. There are just other things in my life that have an equal balance. Like Claire, like trying to stop the wars, trying to make life better for everybody on the planet in a time of peace and prosperity. But we live in a culture right now where the overriding desire is to make more money and everything else is subordinate to it. Product safety is being sacrificed on the altar of greed. Product efficacy and quality has been sacrificed on the altar of greed. Product liability has been sacrificed on the altar of greed. All of these are hallmarks of a descent into absolute fascism, where government authority and corporate greed are aligned together against the general population. That's where we are right now. We're going to do a shout out to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. And getting on back to computers, apparently Google can read your corporate data. This is an article that came out of Infoworld.com. And apparently on Halloween, trick or treat, Google told its Google G Suite users that this morning we made a code push that incorrectly flagged a small percentage of Google Docs as abusive, which caused those documents to be automatically blocked. A fix is in place and all users should have full access to their documents. Now, this misfire reminded everybody that cloud providers have access to all of your data, and that Google was scanning users' documents in real time to see if they're being mean or somehow bad. And you have to agree to such oversight in Google G Suite's terms of service. Now, those terms include personal conduct stipulations and copyright protection, as well as adherence to program policies. Now, who knows what made the program that checks for abuse and other violations go awry, but something did. But the lesson you take away from this is anybody running a cloud server, they're looking at what you put on the cloud. And this idea that you are not allowed to avail yourself of their services unless you agree to certain stipulations on your personal behavior, that is very intrusive. That's none of their business. I'm the customer. They're the provider. The customer is always right, or at least that used to be the conventional wisdom here. I mean, if you are using city water, they don't come in and tell you how to behave, how to talk. The power company doesn't come in and tell you, how you should behave. I mean, they'll both come in and say, please limit how much you're using, because we're running short. But the idea of a cloud provider in its usage agreement saying that you agree to behave the way they think you should behave in your conduct, in your commentary. That is way, way over the line. And that is one of the many reasons why I personally won't use a cloud server. In fact, one of the more annoying things about Apple iOS is how much it's using the cloud, and I don't want them to. I'm not using Cloud Drive. I don't want to use Cloud Drive. But still a lot of stuff on the iPhone winds up on the cloud. My personal music library, for example, which includes the music that Claire has written that I've uploaded. And the problem with it being on the cloud is if I'm away from a cell tower or a Wi-Fi port, I can't get my own data. And in this case, it really is our own data. All right, we're going to take a phone call here from Curtis in Nevada. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, Mike, you were saying earlier about why Donna Brazile might have been motivated to one of the reasons I think that she did it was, I remember back when she was caught giving tips to the DNC before the debates. Remember that?
I remember that.
Yeah, well, remember what Hillary Clinton called her?
I recall that it was very...
Yeah,
Go ahead.
It was a brain-dead buffalo. Okay, you remember that?
I remember that. That's consistent with all the stories about Hillary we've gotten from her former Secret Service protective detail, even the Arkansas police officers. I mean, there have been a lot of books out there about the kind of person Hillary Clinton really is. And the idea that she got that close to the White House is just absolutely terrifying. And again, I think an honest evaluation of the 2016 general election would have shown that the vast majority of votes for Hillary Clinton were in fact fraudulent, or they were bought or bartered or some other situation. And I think the reason that Hillary wasn't really doing that much in terms of political rallies is because she knew she couldn't win the popular vote by going to the voters. And meanwhile, Donald Trump was filling up these sporting venues.
Yeah, sometimes it takes something like that to create a really huge sea change in things. I mean, I really think that was a big motivational factor for, strong-willed women like her. She might be a brain-dead buffalo, but she's not, she's certainly her way of getting back at Hillary. And they're trying... Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, that might have been a factor. I don't think it was the overriding one. I mean, first of all, I would never use that term to describe Donna Brazile. She's obviously a very capable, intelligent person, or she wouldn't have been in that position to begin with. And yes, she made some moral compromises to help her candidate. But again, politics is a dirty business, and you don't get into it without getting dirty. That being said, I think the primary issue here was that Donna Brazile basically inherited a corrupted Democratic National Committee from Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and I think that was probably the breaking point when she got on in there and saw all these Clinton hacks had been installed in the DNC, and apparently Donna Brazile had made a promise to Bernie Sanders saying, I'm going to find out what the heck happened here. And we all remember the games being played with the superdelegates and all this other nonsense where they literally were trying to go to the Electoral College to get him to vote for Hillary Clinton instead of Donald Trump. It was very obviously just an attempt to steal the White House from beginning to end, and that's now coming on out. And Americans need to look at that and realize there is something fundamentally wrong with our elections and campaign system, and that we probably have not gotten the leaders we really voted for going back for a great many years.
Yeah, they're really pushing now on the Podestas, and the closer they get to, they have to do something. I mean, they've got too much things coming up for them just to give all these people a pass, and the closer they get, the more we're going to see. The only thing that the deep state has left is these false flags. Every time they get close to doing something, another one comes on. Not just for distraction, but I mean, it's going to get to a point where if there is a coming collapse, we're going to see people getting arrested. We're going to see unusual activity as these different factions are jockeying for position. Because you know what? If that day comes where there is something declared, that it depends on who's in charge of the major parts of the military and the nuclear arsenal. That's going to be our fate. That if the white hats are in charge, it's going to be our only positive thing. If other factions are in charge, and there are more than one, I'd say there's at least 3 or 4 factions. If any one of those others, get a hold of effective control of whatever, we're going to see blue helmets. We're going to see rogue elements of the military. We're going to see gang members. It's going to be hell on earth. So, honestly, at this point, it's getting to that point where the blue state is getting pushed hard enough that I believe they might just go ahead and pull their Samson, Samson option, because they just might do it.
They definitely might, and I don't know what they were expecting last Saturday with this Antifa civil war, but obviously that fizzled. And so that card is now off the table of trying to stir up a civil war. We're just not, we're not buying it. We understand Antifa has been working with ISIS and Al-Qaeda. This is all being engineered from outside, and it's an attack on our country. But right now we talk about, yes, there's a lot of factions that are out there, but the biggest one obviously is that narcocracy, that CIA, cocaine, gun running, Bush, Clinton, axis of corruption. And right now, from their point of view, they're fighting for their very survival, and anything that allows them to survive and perpetuate is going to be considered acceptable behavior. And anybody who gets in their way is fair game. And I certainly, there's already been a lot of jokes about Donna Brazile being found in Fort Marcy Park and so forth. But again, she's already said publicly she was afraid for her own life when Seth Rich was murdered. So this is all starting to come on out. And because the corporate media is refusing to cover this stuff, it is incumbent upon all of us who are listening to Republic Broadcasting or reading whatreallyhappened.com to make a point of getting it on out there and use email and personal contact, because the social media giants are already starting to filter all of this stuff. Reddit is just basically blacklisting anything to do with the Uranium One investigation. So we've got to go back to what we know works: direct email or just talking amongst ourselves.
Mike, honestly, the drug thing is big, but the glue that holds the whole deep state, I'm talking about the whole world, not just this country, but the whole Western world, deep state elites, the glue is pedophilia, which is ritualistic, which is cannibalistic, which is sacrifice, all leading to that. That's the glue that makes them desperate, not the narcotics. And the closer they get to these podestas and all that, leading in that direction, that's when it's going to hit the fan. That's what I honestly believe.
Well, I'm in agreement with you. My concern, of course, is that apparently sealed indictments are being handed down in the District Court of Washington, D.C. But the problem with the sealed indictment is there's no time expiry on when they're going to be unsealed. There are still sealed indictments going all the way back to the Nixon-Watergate investigation that are just sitting there in this legal twilight zone, and they'll probably never be opened. So apparently some government agencies are trying to do their job. They're handing down indictments. Somebody is saying this needs to be sealed, and we'll see what's happened. But what we need are a few more people like Donna Brazile who just reach that point of being totally fed up, and they start going public and saying, this is what's really been going on.
Hey, if they called me a buffalo, I would be that way too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Have a good day, Mike. All
right. Thanks.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go, and the phone lines are open again if you want to call on in. Getting on back to computers, we all know about denial of service attacks, distributed denial of service attacks, and the worst are what are called spoofed IP denial of service attacks, where the request packets come into your server and they appear to be from totally random IPs around the world. They're not. They're coming from a few servers, but because the IPs are being spoofed, they're not easy to filter on out with your firewall. And we got hit with a bad one this morning. And all of these were targeting those articles on our website specific to the Clinton crimes. Vince Foster, Hillary spying, the dead bodies list, the Epic of Clinton mess, All of that stuff going all the way back to the articles on MENA and the cocaine smuggling that was taking place as part of Iran-Contra. So we know that's what they're afraid of. And they're very concerned that as the American people start learning more and more about Uranium Gate and Dossier Gate, that they're going to be more open and receptive to going on back and saying, what else has Hillary and Bill been up to all these years? What have they been doing? And they're going to start looking at this and saying, how could all of this be happening and the machinery of government look the other way? How could all of this have been happening and the corporate media, which claims to be keeping us informed, didn't inform us? And those are questions that it is time for Americans to now start asking. We'll be back after these few words.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you one of them from Amazon.com. I was diagnosed with high blood pressure. I was a little bit alarmed as I have always been in good health. I started this regime as soon as it arrived, and I have noted that the heaviness in my chest is gone and the pressure headaches I have been having are lessened. I am hoping to see greater results as time progresses, as I am an avid non-user of pharmaceuticals and avoid them at all costs if possible. This was, I think, a great alternative to heart medication. Not that I am a doctor, and for some, there is no choice, but again, for someone like me, I am so far pleased with the results. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, 2, keep it today.
If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. We'll plant 'em anywhere you like and blow up anyone. Whip this world into a frenzy, killing babies, dads, and moms. If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. If you got the money, well, we won't say we did. The towers in New York City.
And welcome back to our show here, and getting on back to denial of service attacks. Article came on out from over in the Register. Basically, between 2015 and 2017, 1/3 of the servers on planet Earth with IPv4 addresses were hit with denial of service attacks. 1/3. So it's a major problem out there. And nobody seems really that interested in finding a way to deal with it. Of course, there's a lot of companies out there who, for a fee, will try and protect you from a denial of service attacks. But again, if they're using spoofed IPs, it's all but impossible. And again, I'm very concerned at the very lax attitude by not just the government of the United States, but much of the rest of the world toward this problem of cybercrime. Now, obviously, if you go after the computers in a wealthy corporation or the government, they'll hunt you down. But small businesses and personal end users, it's open season, it seems like. Ransomware is completely out of control. And we're talking about ransomware as a threat to human life because of all the hospitals that have been hit. And here in the United States of America, part of the Obamacare mandate was that all medical records had to be computerized. No more paper records. Because goodness, you can't get in and change a paper record when you've, accidentally harmed somebody and erased the evidence of malpractice. But once those records are computerized, they are vulnerable to ransomware. And if a doctor is trying to treat a patient and he can't get the medical record, you're going to have problems here. Now, once again, the Google Play Store has allowed a malicious app to get through their screening. It almost seems like there really isn't much of a screen, but apparently there was another fake version of the WhatsApp messaging app for Android, and it had already been downloaded by more than 1 million users. Now, Google has removed the fake WhatsApp Android app from its official Play Store, but it was spotted by users, not by Google. The users had to go and say, Google, look, this is a fake version. And I'll tell you one thing that would really help is actually catching some of these people who are doing this and make an example out of them. But it just seems like nobody really cares about dealing with the problem because it encourages you to buy more security software. There's more money to be made in letting you be a victim of cybercrime and having to spend more money on your own security software than there is in actually dealing with the cybercrime. Except that cybercrime right now is costing the U.S. economy tens of billions of dollars every single year. Our economy can't support that. But everybody's thinking their own immediate profit, their own immediate sales, their own immediate agenda, and nobody's really thinking about the overview of the IT infrastructure of our nation as a whole. And that should, in theory, be what the government is up to. But we know all these government agencies, they'll take their money, and then they just sit around looking at online porn. We've seen time and again, the Minerals Management Service ignored the fact that the manual blow-up preventer on the Deepwater Horizon was 4 years overdue for mandatory maintenance, which contributed greatly to that disaster. The Securities Exchange Commission had been told for something like 12 years Bernie Madoff was running a Ponzi scheme, didn't want to get involved. In fact, the people who went over to Bernie Madoff's place, they took resumes. They wanted in on it. It's another example of how greed and lust for money is destroying what used to be the best characteristics of what it was to be an American. And as the financial vice tightens on all of us, higher prices, higher taxes, lower wages, lower salaries, everybody is driven to start making those moral compromises until finally we have a nation without any moral compass at all. We'll be back after these commercials.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
For the past 14 years, it's been my privilege to host the National Intel Report on RBN, to offer a platform to interview exceptional guests, to provoke critical thought, and examine evidence, whether real, fake, or somewhere in between, and allow our audience to call in and participate with your input and questions in order to help us all reach an educated decision and arrive at our own truth. Our world has changed. It's now been turned on its head. Real is now considered fake, and mainstream fake is now pushed as real, rather than any clear thinking, consensus, or rationale.
Those few remaining beacons of light, the ones still shining through the mainstream media lies, propaganda, and deception, are being viciously attacked at every level through attempts at censorship, threatening advertisers, jailing hosts, and even killing journalists brave enough to speak the truth to you. We are in a war for our very freedom and existence, and through these despicable acts, freedom haters, collectivists, and communitarians have shown they will stop at nothing to blot out these last few beacons of light. Truth is becoming increasingly more difficult to unmask, just as the term unmasking itself is spoken by those usually anonymous sources. They promote their lies, wishing to mask the truths by ignoring it, vilifying it, or conspiratorializing it into a black hole abyss.
Regrettably, RBN has reached the tipping point, and through internal audit and actuarial review, it has now been determined that the only life raft of survival to this network is to go the way of PBS, that being audience-supported. Like a cornered animal, the left with veracity is pulling out all the stops with every effort to effectively blacken our beacon forever. Help us, folks. Help yourselves. Don't let our light stop shining. Our motto has always been, because you can handle the truth. It's time to review your budget, folks. If you want the truth to keep flowing through RBN, go to republicbroadcasting.org and become a regular monthly donor of $30, $40, $50, or $100 or more a month, and ensure you keep the truth flowing.
Do you worry a lot? If you're forgetful, nervous, moody, or overwhelmed, chances are you're not protecting yourself from the ravaging effects of stress and anxiety. No matter the cause, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, your quality of life, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in as little as 1 to 2 weeks and increase your ability to recall facts, names, and numbers in 4 to 12 weeks. Calm and Clever was created by scientist Kurt Hendricks, a principal investigator in 2 NIH-funded studies on Alzheimer's disease. Try Calm and Clever for 2 months. You'll feel the difference. Call 1-800-758-8746 or go to calmandclever.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. As most of you know, my regular listeners, I offer energy cleaners for sale at my website. If you don't have a clue what I'm talking about, go to my website, thelibertyman.com. Educate yourself about these marvelous healing devices. We focus on pain mitigation and getting a great night's sleep. Arthritis pain, joint pain, back pain, doesn't matter. Keep in mind, I offer from me to you personally a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's what I do. Energy cleaners, $285, shipping included to American zip codes. You can educate yourself all about the energy cleaner right there at my website, the patent application, the wonderful testimonials. Be sure and check out the factory-made fitted mattress pads that go with the energy cleaner. Now, I offer from me to you personally a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's what I do. I have a toll-free order line, or you can order it right at my website at thelibertyman.com. The toll-free order line is 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Thank you.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And for those of you who want to support Republic Broadcasting, grab your pencil and paper. The address is, if you want to mail in a check or money order or box tops or whatever, Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. If you want to phone in your support with a credit card or some other means, the phone number is 800-724-2719, extension 03. And obviously, for those of you who want to support whatreallyhappened.com, and we need your help, you can go to the top of whatreallyhappened.com, and there's a little menu item, Donate, that will take you to our donations page, where you can either make a donation through PayPal, there's a mailing address if you want to send something through the postal mail, or you can buy something from our online store. So thank you very much for your help. We're in a battle. There's no question about it. We're in a battle right now. It's a battle of the little money against the big money, and we need the little money to all band together. Speaking of battles, very interesting statistic right now, 7 out of 11 U.S. nuclear aircraft carriers are underway simultaneously for the first time in several years. 3 are on operational deployments in the Western Pacific with full air wings and carrier strike groups. That's the USS Ronald Reagan, the USS Nimitz, and the USS Theodore Roosevelt. These are the ones that are being wagged at North Korea to try and calm things down. 4 more are out for short training missions as part of training operations or workups ahead of deployments. The USS Carl Vinson and USS John C. Stennis are operating in the Eastern Pacific. The USS Abraham Lincoln and the Navy's newest carrier, USS Gerald Ford, are operating in the Atlantic. The rest of the carriers are in ports for overhaul, refueling, and so forth and so on. Now, I've stated before, I think this nonsense about the NFL players kneeling for the anthem, it was nonsense to begin with, and I don't know what somebody was thinking behind this, that they were going to use the NFL sports stars to try to sell the idea of disrespecting our flag and our anthem and our nation. And the idea being that the anthem and the flag represent the abuses of the U.S. government. And no, they don't. The anthem and the flag represent we the people and our nation, not the government. And as critical as I am of our government, I still salute the flag and I stand for the anthem. Because I stand for the American people in the United States of America. But this kneeling thing has continued to cascade forward, and apparently NFL viewership is now down 20%. And the league is looking at a loss of $920 million in telecast profits, which is how the American people can make a point. By turning off the dial, by boycotting the products. And it does have an effect, or you wouldn't have Israel running all over the country saying, you have to make boycotting Israel illegal because it's anti-Semitic, it's Jew hate, it's Hitler worship. All right, let's take a phone call here. Mike in Maryland. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, thanks for taking my call. Good show as always. I just want to talk about that purge and maybe have my own spin or component on it. I mean, probably all the princes and ministers are corrupt money launderers. You know, I doubt if there's a single honest person in leadership in that country. Of course, that's not the reason. Of course, that's not the reason of being purged. But here's my take on it. I'm sure you're probably aware that some people in the Saudi government have been cozying up to Russia and thinking about getting away from using the dollar as the reserve currency. Is it possible that the people that are being purged are the ones that are trying to be friends with Russia and are trying to trade their oil for currencies other than the dollar? Do you think that's a possibility?
No, it's exactly the opposite. The people who are being arrested for corruption are the ones who want to maintain close ties to the United States of America. It's the Saudi leadership, primarily Crown Prince bin Salman, who's talking about moving away from the United States, being a little bit more independent. And he's the one who's making the overtures to Russia and China about direct currency exchange deals, not going through the U.S. dollar. Again, we know that these arrested royals and ministers are neck deep in the Hillary Clinton Foundation scandal as well.
Well, then, what do you think the real reason is that they're being purged? Is it simply because of their past ties to Clinton Bush, or is there something else?
I think basically that's it. I'm getting a sense that Crown Prince bin Salman, as he gets ready to take over the throne from his father, it basically wants to take Saudi Arabia in a new direction. And right now he's basically getting rid of everybody who would try and stand in his way to make the changes he feels he wants to make to Saudi Arabia.
So he wants a clean slate, yeah. Well, all
yes.
I have to say is, I just wish Trump would fire Mueller and Sessions. They're really beginning to be an embarrassment.
They are. They're very. The whole government's an embarrassment. Let's not narrow it down like that. Our entire government is an embarrassment. The corporate media is an embarrassment. They're still going on and on about the Texas shooter. They're absolutely not wanting to go near Uranium Gate or Dossier Gate and now Primary Gate. The scandals are just piling on up.
Sure. I mean, how many times can Sessions recuse himself before you realize that his tenure there is worthless, you know?
Well, frankly, my opinion was the instant he recused himself from a legitimate investigation, he should have been fired. He should resign. If he was an honorable man, he would resign. But we're basically in this situation where the entire governmental structure is either being blackmailed or they're simply afraid of going after Hillary because of the damage she could do to the government as a whole by going public on all the drug running, the CIA that was back in Arkansas in the 1980s. She could come on out and say, yeah, the elections were rigged not just last year but before that and before that. And she knows where all the dead bodies are buried and how they got to be dead bodies. She's got the information to ruin a huge number of careers in Washington, D.C., and I'm sure she's got her dead man switches in place so that nothing bad will happen to her.
I agree 100%, but I hope, however, forlornly, that there's at least one person of integrity in our government that can somehow do the right thing, but, that can't be compromised, that'll stand up for the law and justice, Hey, thanks for taking my call.
You got it. I mean, we had all sort of hoped that Donald Trump was going to be that outsider who would come on in and shake things up. But he basically came on in and, again, two issues that I keep raising. I think Donald Trump was as dangerously naive about Washington, D.C. politics as Jimmy Carter was, who was also an outsider who came on in. And I think Donald Trump wanted to be magnanimous in victory, and he allowed a lot of these Obama holdovers to remain in the jobs they were, thinking that now that Trump was the boss and signing the paychecks effectively, they would be loyal to him. That's not the way Washington, D.C. works. And Trump basically set out trying to drain the swamp, and instead he wound up hiring most of those alligators and water moccasins on his staff. And now they've got him completely corralled. I'm sure that they are feeding him information designed to make him do what they want him to do. I think Trump is pretty much effectively cut off from the real world by this point. And they're just using him for their own particular agendas. But you're absolutely right. We are now on our second attorney general in a row that is protecting Hillary Clinton. We're on our second FBI director in a row who's protecting Hillary Clinton. Again, it's amazing all the stuff that's coming on out where the official world of Washington, D.C. and the corporate media are just looking the other way and whistling as hard as they can. All right, let's go back to the phones here. Sean in New York, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Michael. I just wanted to call and thank you for all the news and insight you provide. And that's very informative, and I learned a lot from it.
Well, thank you very much for those kind words. I hope you'll tell your friends and family and neighbors about Republic Broadcasting and get them to tune in.
I do, and I missed your show on Friday, so I hope that you're better now.
I'm much better. It was a 24-hour bug, and it was a bad one, but I'm definitely much better today.
Okay, so do you know why the Weinstein people that are coming out, they're not like advising, normal people to go to the police when they get abused or anything like that? Because they're not, it's like sending the wrong message, and people are coming, go to the social media instead of going to the police, and that sends the wrong message.
Corey Feldman went to the police, and unfortunately they weren't interested in what he had to say because everybody was focused on Michael Jackson at the time. Basically, I don't know what the statute of limitations is for sexual assault, but some of these accusations are actually quite old. And these are people who went along with what was being done to them. because to try and do something about it meant the end of their career. And that is something that is very painful to go through. And I know because I went through it back in 1994 when I went public on the Vince Foster case. And, you know, a career in entertainment and show business, that's a lot of work. And the odds are stacked against you. And even to get in and get started, you know, is a long shot. And people don't want to throw that away. They're in love with the fame. They're in love with the adulation. They're in love with the money. They don't want to give that up. And so they'll basically just stay quiet and go along with what's happening around them. And it's a moral compromise. But we see the same thing in the corporate boardrooms or in politics. Apparently, Parliament in Great Britain is now dealing with a huge sexual harassment scandal of their own from all the underlings who were working in Parliament, who were being abused, but they didn't want to say anything because they like being able to say, I work in Parliament.
Do you think that we'll see all these people taken down, or will they still remain? Or will like a large amount of them still remain up there, and they like have a focused amount of people that will go down?
Well, there are some of the big people who are already starting to come down. If you're talking about Hollywood, Kevin Spacey has been kicked off of House of Cards. Weinstein is out of his own company, and we'll see what's going to happen. But we need to remember when one of these things gets going and there's a groundswell of accusations, some of the accusations are going to be legit and well-deserved, but there's always going to be a bunch of people who are going to just hurl an accusation because it's going to get them free publicity. They're going to get their name in print. Or they're thinking that if I make a big enough fuss, they'll pay me a bunch of money to shut up. And so we have to look at each of these allegations, as an individual case and not just get caught up in this thing about, oh, they're all doing it. A lot of them are, but not everybody. Not everybody is behaving like this. Like I've said before, my experience working in Hollywood is that you're going to encounter two categories of human beings. You're going to encounter absolute saints who work to be there. They want to be there. They want their productions to be top quality, and they play the thing straight. And then you're going to meet these absolute sharks who are attracted by all the free sex and money and power that Hollywood can offer to the genuine sharks. And yes, we've got the David Begelmans and Harvey Weinsteins on one side, and then you got on the other side you've got the people like Renee Valente, who is an absolute pro and a straight shooter, and I miss her terribly. Okay?
There's a lot of people just hanging around up there. A lot of bad people hanging around there, and it's like they're targeting who they want to go down, and the others will remain up.
Well, I don't know how much targeting is going on, but one thing I'm beginning to suspect is that Hillary and her people are encouraging this. They're taking all their liberal Hollywood friends who supported Hillary during the campaign, and now they're throwing them under the bus to try and keep people distracted away from Uranium Gate, Dossier Gate, and Primary Gate. And I'm sure these liberals in Hollywood are going to realize what's happening and understand that loyalty that they showed to Hillary Clinton was a one-way street. None of it's coming back.
That can only last for so long, since people from both sides are going to go after Hillary. So I don't see how that can last much longer.
It does feel like we're nearing a breaking point, and all we need is a few more people like Donna Brazile to come forward and say, look, this is what's going on. I've got the proof Hillary was doing this stuff. And right now, of course, the Democratic Party is in chaos because it's a huge scandal. The entire Democratic National Committee last year was under the control of Hillary Clinton, and they stole the nomination from Bernie Sanders. And what Bernie Sanders ought to be doing right now is coming on back and say, I'm going to take over control of the Democratic National Committee, because if you leave it in the hands of these Hillary people, they're going to get trashed in next year's midterm elections.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I just called it. Thank you very much for all the news you provide. You've done a great job. Very informative. I'm glad you're getting the news out there. I tell my friends to listen to you. So I post what you show online. So just wanted to thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for those kind words. Thank you very much. I wish the same for you. We're going to let you go and switch over to David in Los Angeles. David, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, this is David. Thank you. I just want to let you know, last weekend I was in Los Angeles at the Antifa rally, and I like what you always talk about, Occam's razor, which is a lot of times the most obvious thing is actually true, which is they are, in fact, totally disorganized as a group and incapable of putting forth any type of measured, organized response. It was almost laughable how inept they were. But I will pay tribute not only to the Los Angeles Police Department, but there's a lot of Trump supporters that showed up who were very cogently communicating through a bullhorn across the street. And I was standing over on the Antifa side because I had a photographer from Europe who wanted to take some pictures. And anyway, it was just an example that it's not that hard to just stand up to these people, and when they are stood up to, they tend to melt away. And it was all kind of in good humor, and then unfortunately the events at the church and other things happened as a result. But I just want to let you know that I think America is safe, and you're doing a wonderful job, and thank you, Mike. Every day we listen to you.
Well, thank you very much for the kind words. And, yeah, it does feel like we're on the cusp of some dramatic upheavals within our political system. And, again, more and more information is continuing to come on out. And we need to make a big deal about it. If we here in the independent media and you out there on the Internet make a big deal about Uranium Gate, Dossier Gate, and Primary Gate, eventually the corporate media will have to cave and deal with this. We went through this once before when the Dodgy Dossier came on out, or the Downing Street Memo, and it was big news on the independent media for an entire month. And then finally the corporate media had to start covering it because everyone was calling up and saying, this is big news, why aren't you covering it? So we have to keep up the pressure. And that means that you take all these stories about what's coming on out on all of these scandals, and just one of these scandals is the equivalent of a new Watergate. And now we've got 3 of them piled up against Hillary Clinton. And you need to push it out there. And it will get heard. We'll be back after these few words.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds, up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield Tactical Bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Do you or a loved one suffer migraine headaches? Listen to what scientist Kurt Hendricks has to say.
If you are one of the millions of people who get migraines, you need to know about Mig Relief. Hi, I'm Kurt Hendricks, the scientist who created Mig Relief, the patented dietary supplement that addresses nutritional deficiencies in adults and children with migraines. Thousands of physicians and pharmacists recommend Mig Relief.
Call 800-MIG-7354 or visit MIG911.com.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Join Mike on the air. Call toll-free 800-313-9443. 800-313-9443.
Clinton had severe health problems. And the health problems were severe enough for Donna Brazile to consider replacing her with Biden as the 2016 Democratic nominee. And it wasn't just Donna Brazile. It was others in the DNC were looking at Hillary's nonstop coughing fits and ill health, and that she was really, really sick. And that after she had that fainting spell at the 9/11 observance, they were talking about she doesn't have the stamina for doing that. Now, of course, Hillary's people are out there saying that, well, Donna Brazile she's just promoting Russian propaganda. It was only Russian propaganda that Hillary was ill. She was perfectly healthy the whole time along. No, she wasn't. Everybody could see it, how ill she looked. The special lens in her glasses, because her eyes can't focus normally. She's a seriously ill lady. And Donna Brazile has just confirmed what everybody was observing for themselves. Now then, do you remember in early October, there was this ambush by Daesh in Nigeria, where U.S. Special Forces were killed. And the official story was the troops were on a simple, low-risk reconnaissance mission when they were ambushed and killed. Well, a Nigerian soldier who survived the ambush has told the Washington Post that the U.S. Special Forces were actually taking part in a search and destroy operation. In other words, a military operation. So here's something else people are having to come to grips with. The U.S. has already got soldiers all across Africa. They're getting ready for war on the African nations. You weren't supposed to find out about it. But apparently the U.S. has military forces already stationed in something like 50 out of 54 nations. Now, over in Thailand, they have started a trial, cigarette ban, 90 days. For the next 90 days, nobody's allowed to smoke or buy tobacco products. If you are caught smoking or selling tobacco, you face a year in jail. And I understand there are a lot of people who think this is a very healthy thing to do, but look back on prohibition in this country and the incredible amounts of corruption that it led to. It literally rewrote our political landscape by bringing the families of the rum runners to positions of wealth and power, like the Kennedys, just as the ban on drugs has allowed the families of the drug runners to become politically influential in our country. I don't think it's a really good idea. Getting a report now out of Ohio. Apparently, Rover Pipeline has released 2 million gallons of sludge into wetlands and quarries that provide drinking water for the people of Ohio. It's actually getting harder and harder to get a good glass of water in this country. And finally, the New York Times is finally confirming that mumps is now spread mostly by vaccinated children. We've been talking about this for years, how the mumps outbreaks happen in vaccinated children and how the vaccinated children can give mumps to those around them. And finally, after years of denial, the New York Times has said, yeah, that's what's going on. There's the music. Time for me to get on out of here and do the Jim Goddard Show up in Vancouver. Please stay tuned for John Stadmiller. He's got a lot of interesting things to share with you. Take what you have learned here, share it with everybody that you know. Use email and direct contact because the social media is being filtered. Keep pushing Russiagate, Dossiergate, Primarygate. We will force the corporate media to hear us if we work together. We'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.